still wake up with a little guy saluting me.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy.
You wanted this, right? You wanted the real deal? That's what this is. Wake up. You're in the middle of it.
You better wake up and listen to what you're saying.
Which is a morning show. Wake up.
What the hell? Wake up, everyone.
So if I have this right, tomorrow at this time, we will not be in this very studio. We will be broadcasting from, I believe, the club level at the one and only Gamebridge Fieldhouse. And boys, besides Carb Day, I think that's the only time we go offsite all year, right?
Well, I mean, we were at the NBA All-Star stuff.
Oh,
but,
we were.
You know,
Yeah.
that might be about it.
I guess we do dabble in the combine, so now
We'll dabble.
Training camp.
I stand corrected a little bit. Yeah, geez, where's my head at?
Hey,
on
you
this
picked up
Tuesday
feces
morning?
out the ground about a year ago. What are you thinking? That's
Crusty-
11 months ago.
Crusty animal dung.
But yes, we don't get out too much.
We don't. And I don't think I've ever done a broadcast inside of an NBA arena. Have you?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I mean, I did one back at the KFC Yum Center,
a time or two?
yeah, I mean, it's a very nice arena, but it does not host any sort of NBA team, so I'm ready to go. We can pretend we're the play-by-play guys. How about that?
That is exactly right. Yes, we will be in what sounds like the area that you're used to maybe see Mark Boyle broadcast Pacer games from. That will be us tomorrow. Again, it is Fever and Mystics, a noon tip tomorrow. Airing locally on WTHR, but we'll be out there from 7 to 10 tomorrow and hoping to have some notable members of the Fever organization join us. We'll continue to keep you posted on that end, but really looking forward to that. But nonetheless, good Tuesday morning to you. I am Kevin Bowen, Andy Sweeney, and Mark Dykton on a muggy start to this Tuesday. It sounds like a lot of rain coming from the hurricane that has hit landfall there. Certainly think about everybody in that Texas area and in that pathway with all the flooding that sounds like it's likely heading our way here coming up in the next day or so. Any Zach Edey watching last night for you?
I watched Zach Edey a little bit last night. He got into a little scuffle at one point last night.
Got teed up, didn't he?
Yeah, I like that. No, he looked like Zach Edey for the most part, did he not? I mean, to me, he looked like Zach Edey. What do you have, 14 points, 15 rebounds, something like that? So, no, Zachary Edey, a good start to his summer league. There's no doubt about it. I always think, though, you know, I feel bad for Edey, right? I mean, don't they split up the NBA? He's in the Utah Summer League. Like, you know, you want to be in the Vegas Summer League, not the Utah Summer League. There's a lot less to do in Utah.
A little different vibe is what you're saying.
Again,
Yeah,
I don't know how it necessarily works, but I believe Memphis is in both.
Are they in both?
So I think they'll play in Vegas.
Well, Zach Edey won't play in both, I would imagine,
later.
right?
Yeah,
he plays in a couple games here and he's done.
Memphis plays tonight and tomorrow night. So
Yeah, that's it.
I don't think Memphis is necessarily going to be playing Zach Edey 3 straight nights. But nonetheless, you know, it's kind of funny. I realized throughout the day, I'm like, oh, yeah, Edey plays tonight at 9 o'clock. I'll definitely watch that. But then I'm thinking to myself, well, it's not like he plays, you know, any quality big men on the other side. Then, lo and behold, I turn it on. They're like, yeah, Walker Kessler starting for the Jazz night.
Yeah.
I'm like, wasn't Walker Kessler on Team USA?
He was, yeah. And the only reason I know that, I remember thinking, I know we're building a team and not just the best players, but why is Walker Kessler on a team?
No, that is a very fair
That's why
statement.
I remember Walker Kessler.
Yeah, I guess my why question related to Walker Kessler last night was, why the hell is he in Summer League? Like, he is too good to be in Summer League.
It's a fair point.
I thought it was a nice matchup, frankly, for Edey. As, you know, I don't know how you define Walker Kessler. It sounded like he didn't have a very good second season. Sorry, I'm not keeping up to date on my Utah Jazz here. But, yeah, 34 minutes for Edey, 14 points, 15 rebounds, 4 blocks, 3 turnovers. I would say a stat that stood out to me just because he never did this at Purdue. He did have 6 fouls. In the Summer League, you can't foul out. The highlight you'll see on SportsCenter is Edey missing a tip dunk with 8 seconds to go that would have given the Grizzlies the lead, but then he tips in a beautifully missed free throw by Lawrence Central's own Jake LaRavia to force overtime. The old missed free throw tip in actually worked. Zach Edey was the one that did that there, so that pretty much kind of summarizes his night. You know, I thought there were moments where it's like, all right, he can protect the rim, and his ability to just alter things at the NBA level is still going to be there. He clears so much damn space.
Right.
Just
he does.
in simply setting screens and rolling and all of that. But, you know, and Kessler was, you know, the main guy opposite him. There were times where finishing through a guy like Walker Kessler is different than finishing through, respective Big Ten guys and stuff like that. So, I'd say probably what you'd expect from Zach Edey's first game.
It was
in the Summer League.
good to see the teamwork when Edey looked like he was going to get into a fight. G.G. Jackson was ready to throw down with him. So, good on the Memphis Grizzlies.
A little double tech action.
Had no
Edey
problem with that.
did turn the ankle early in the third quarter, only missed about a minute or two of action before he went back in the lineup. Plenty of reaction today, Pacers-wise. Obviously, we had Rick Carlisle on yesterday. A big press conference over there with Pascal Siakam, Kevin Pritchard, and Rick Carlisle as well. So we'll hit on some of that. Give some Team USA thoughts. They're one more day away from taking on Team Canada. So, again, that will be, as Rick Carlisle said to us yesterday, a chance for the Pacers brass to be out there watching Tyrese Halliburton and Andrew Nembhard. And as always, our Colts question of the day. This time last year, we talked contract drama with this guy. Now we're talking about how much of a workload, how much of a bell cow will Jonathan Taylor be this season?
Yeah, interested in that. We'll do that in the 8 o'clock hour. ESPN had a list where they pulled, front office, the old mysterious front office executives, general managers, scouts, coaches, and everything else around the NFL, and kind of gave their list of top running backs in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor, despite having an up and down year, the contract stuff, the injury stuff, and everything else that went into last year, the backup quarterback stuff as well, never playing with Anthony Richardson other than a couple snaps. Where does he rank? So we'll dive into that. And then, really just yesterday, for me, KB, was, an interesting celebration, if you will. I found it to be, and Carlisle was obviously on with us, but, his time at the press conference yesterday, calling it the biggest free agent signing in the history of the Pacers. You had, Kevin Pritchard, and we'll play this sound as we go, this morning, talking about how excited he is that this team and Pascal Siakam obviously will have an entire training camp. And then, I thought as well, him coming out saying, hey, with the team that we've built here, we're not scared of anyone, in the league, in the Eastern Conference, which I found to be interesting. I was going to ask you, before the show, but I forgot. When's the last time someone talked so boastfully around here? I mean, you'd have to go back definitely to Peyton Manning in the Colts, some of those years where you just knew that you had a pretty good team, and Pritchard obviously feels that way. And then, you feel good for Pascal Siakam getting his money. And I thought it was funny yesterday, him saying, this is the first time I've ever had one of these press conferences. I've been paid a lot of money in the NBA, but I've never had a big press conference just for me on signing a new deal. So that was cool to see. He seemed rather, thankful about the entire process. And, now that he and Obi Toppin are back, this team's ready to go. A couple small tweaks here or there, but we know who's going to be on this team, and we'll see what happens.
Let's focus maybe on Siakam's genuine joy for just a second, because I thought that was a really cool moment, like you said, Andy, yesterday. And I remember when Kevin Pritchard first said this a few years ago about, we have got to make sure that guys, feel comfortable here, want to be here, feel appreciated, however you want to describe that feeling. And, when I first heard the comment from Pritchard, I thought to myself, man,
sure. Pie in the sky, we get it, right?
That's a little cheesy. I mean, at the end of the day, it's money, it's nightlife, and, if the canal ever turns into an ocean, maybe you'll have a better chance at attracting some free agents, some recruits. But then you hear Siakam's words yesterday, and honestly, even before Siakam's words, I felt like those comments from Pritchard, the Pacers do turn that into action. And just little things. Remember last year? They brought Benedict Matherin's mom to surprise him with cooking like his favorite meal.
Yeah, I forgot about
that. And cooked for all of the Pacers players over at the facility. Just little stuff. Hey, when we have the one-night road trips one time a year, take mom with you. And, I mean, just, again, it's not like earth-shattering ideas, but it's little, genuine, real things that I do think resonate. And for Siakam yesterday, it was, Andy, like you just said, his first press conference. What do the Pacers do? Instead of putting us, ugly media members in the first couple of rows, they make sure that all their employees and every summer intern they could find sit in those seats. So Pascal Siakam is looking out at that when obviously his teammates are scattered across the country right now. And I just think the Pacers have taken that to heart. And it matters. It matters more to other players than it does to some. But I just think that, you hear Siakam say, like, the idea of change was really daunting to me. And for the Pacers to make him feel comfortable on and off the floor, I did think, left a strong impression. Now, of course, the Pacers could also offer Pascal Siakam more money.
Yeah, the most money
than any other team. So I don't want to lose sight of this Hollywood script and this romanticizing that I am a bit here. But I do think whether it's Halliburton and how you treated him after being traded, or again, in this case with Siakam, that stuff does matter. You have to find the right type of character person for them to truly appreciate it. But I do think what the Pacers have tried to make a really concerted effort in doing over the last couple of years, in Halliburton, Siakam's case, and other guys, I think whether it's the St. Vincent Sports Center, whether it's their training staff, again, whether it's some of these little things that we just talked about, I do think that that matters.
Yeah, I mean, they openly talked yesterday about, Mr. Simon saying, let's go for some of this. Let's try to win. Let's spend more money. So much of the time, if you're not in one of the few big markets, you can be bashed that, well, you can't get free agents. And I think what happened here with Tyrese is, what happened with Tyrese is different because it was a trade. But if you combine this with Siakam, especially with Siakam, KB, I think they found a star, a well above average player, an all-star, however you want to label Pascal Siakam specifically. And I think what they did was they realized, hey, we can get this guy. And if we get this guy, through a trade, whatever it may be, let's wow him for the few months that he is here, right? It became their job to convince him that, hey, when you hit free agency here, we want you. Here's why we want you. And we want that to be explicitly clear. We don't want there to be any guessing in the Siakam family about this item or that item, any of the small things. We got you covered, big guy. And I kind of feel like, don't you? You've been covering it closer than I have, obviously, being right here. I started a year ago. It just feels like there is the last couple years, and probably bringing in Rick Carlisle is probably kind of the marker on all of this, is there has been a refound energy on winning here, that you can win, that you can, if you have to spend a little bit more money, and they know, and listen, you made the right thing, unless the canal turns into an ocean and there's a beach, it's not going to always be easy to get free agents.
Well, not every star is Siakam.
But exactly. But they have been able to pinpoint guys that they like and that like them, and then wow them every step of the way. That's how it feels from the outside. And I thought yesterday, that's why you saw that. You saw Carlisle and Pritchard say the things that they said, and then you saw Siakam. This was an easy process, KB. This was not Paul George going back and forth between a couple teams, or LeBron having to put together the nonsense that he had to put together to stay with the Lakers and getting his son and all that other nonsense. I don't know. There's something nice about a newfound young energy around a team, and then you throw in Siakam. He's not an old guy, but he even talked about it yesterday. I get to be the vet. I get to be the guy that kind of puts my hand around someone's shoulder and says, "Here's a different way to do things." So you mentioned joyous. That's what yesterday was. I really thought for the most part.
I thought it was interesting when Kevin Pritchard shared his thoughts on exactly when they kind of felt, oh, all right, let's make an attempt at this.
I like that.
I thought that kind of stood out to me. We'll share that upcoming as well. Again, we'll play some various Pacers audio throughout. For those that missed Rick Carlisle with us yesterday, I would say one of the more candid responses in regards to Jarris Walker and exactly what he's looking for from him as Summer League inches closer. I think the message has gotten to Walker a little bit as well. And again, how that looks to us might not be as obvious here as we start to watch Summer League later this week. Pacers' first game will be on Friday. We'll play a clip regarding that here in a bit. I nerd out a little bit over this.
Okay. I was wondering where you were going. All right, go ahead.
Did you know that currently, I believe it's starting here in a little bit over an hour, we will begin the quarterfinals of the men's Wimbledon tournament?
Okay, yeah, I know Wimbledon's going on. How much am I paying attention to it? Obviously not very much, but, it's out there.
We have 2 American men left.
Okay.
You want to take a stab at the last time we've had 2 American men left in the quarterfinals of Wimbledon?
Did it involve, did it involve Andy Roddick? That would have been every bit of 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, so would it have been Roddick and Pete Sampras? That would have been, yeah. 17 years ago? You tell me.
I think I've shared this before to try and provide context around a year. It might be too creepy. I apologize to our audience out there for saying it. I don't think I had armpit hair.
I knew you were going to go to that. Yeah.
I think the voice was cracking. I think I dropped a book on, the kid's locker that was under me going to class.
So Tommy Paul is one of them. I only know because he dates IG models, so I'm immediately rooting for Mr. Paul.
Now,
and who's the other guy? The Fritz guy? I don't know him.
Yeah, and I felt like I saw that his girlfriend was getting into it with the other guy yesterday.
Oh, was that happening? Okay, I
think there's some drama that you might like with these two.
Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, this will make me pay attention. I mean, the only thing I knew about I got to be honest, about Wimbledon was there's a guy named Sinner.
Right.
Which is it'd be,
see the redheaded Italian?
I mean, how great would it be to have that last name? That'd be a great thing for, Sinner in the afternoons, right? That's a great thing for sports talk radio host to have the last name Sinner. But yes, he's the redheaded.
Wake up call with KB and Andy, a little boring. Sinner sounds a little better is what you're getting at.
Throw in Sinner, Yannick Sinner.
2000, the last time we've had two American men. I would have to double check
17 years ago.
I thought it was Sampras and Agassi. Maybe it was Roddick, but wild. Taylor Fritz coming back yesterday from 2 sets down. Tommy Paul also into the quarterfinals. And, I think when we're in Olympic year, it becomes a little bit more prevalent to me, Andy, but I think I've brought this up on a couple of occasions throughout the show. And I know, I guess we went back and forth a little bit last week on USA men's soccer and all of that. To me, it is very interesting when we can be so dominant in varieties of sports, but yet there are some that we just can't sniff an answer to.
Right.
And men's tennis
it's
would
been
be
one.
one of them.
Yeah.
Now, you could easily say, well, don't be born in the era of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. Well, sure, but it's not like there's American males that are getting to the semifinals and losing to these guys, or even the quarterfinals and losing to those guys on frequent basis. So I have no idea if Senor Fritz or Senor Paul will get it done anymore, but I am very intrigued to see if American men tennis will ever get, back on the map, because, again, in my lifetime, certainly since my teenage years, it hasn't sniffed it.
I may need to lay some bets here at the next break. I might go Medvedev. I might bet him against Sinner.
Is he the big Russian dude?
Yeah. I might bet the Russian.
Why not
during the break?
Why not go with the underdog here?
Then I got to go with my man Paul. We'll see what happens.
He's got Alcaraz.
We got to lay a bet, though.
Alcaraz later today.
You got time, Mark. 8:30 and 9:30, so we have some time to get the apps out and figure something out here in the next hour and a half.
Are you a Wimbledon watcher at all?
Not very much. No, I mean, like you said, if there's someone that kind of interests me towards the semifinals and finals, I'm all in. I'd like to go. Get a $32 champagne. I'd like to go.
Gosh, I don't know if I could afford the outfits to go there.
Oh, the outfits are amazing. No, I mean,
wasn't Mahomes there this week?
I'd be the poorest person there by far. Oh yeah, I mean, have you seen the
double dip of the F1 race, right? That Lewis Hamilton just won.
Is that what he did?
I believe he did. Yeah,
it's a pretty good double dip. It's not a bad double
dip. Not bad.
Dip.
You could stretch in the British Open. Next week.
That's a nice $200,000 weekend for Pat Mahomes. Must be good to be him.
I think he can afford it.
I think he's probably fine. So we'll get to that Pacer sound as we go. Our Colts question of the day, Gil McGregor, NBA insider for the Sporting News, will join us in the 9 o'clock hour as well. Pop quiz. I almost said it's a freebie Friday. It is not a Friday. It is a Tuesday. Good God, we wish it was.
Can it be Friday?
Yeah, boy. It's going to rain for 2 days, isn't it? You stepped outside today and you knew it was going to rain today.
It's muggy
I feel like I was sweating immediately. Speaking of armpits, I felt like my pits were sweating immediately. Anyway, so we'll dive into that.
Good visuals here on this Tuesday morning.
Good visuals for your 7 o'clock
Please don't bring those visuals to the Fever game tomorrow.
I will not be doing that. All right, so coming up after the break, we'll let you hear from some of the parties involved in yesterday's Pacers press conference, plus your scores from last night. Morning check down. It's coming up next on this Tuesday wake-up call, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Down. Brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. Season tickets are on sale now. Order by August 1st for your shot at the best seats in Hinkle Fieldhouse. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Colts question of the day coming up top of the hour. We'll chat a little bit about Jonathan Taylor. Can he build off what I think was arguably the best game of his career to end last season? We'll do that coming up at 8. Plenty of reaction to Kevin Pritchard, Pascal Siakam, and their comments from yesterday. And Andy, I believe that's where you want to lead off this morning check.
Yeah, let's start at Gamebridge yesterday. Quite the scene as the big press conference. Pascal Siakam gets introduced yet again. Had all of the media folk were there. Basically, like you mentioned, the Pacers had just about everyone they had in the offices down there. Rick Carlisle called it the biggest free agent signing in program history. So let's hear from some of the parties involved. Kevin Pritchard was first. Here's Kevin Pritchard, the signing of Pascal Siakam, and overall just how fun last season was.
We've signed Pascal to a 4-year max deal. We had a pretty quick negotiation. We knew this was, a top priority and something that we wanted to get done, and couldn't ask for a better person. He is a great player. He's a better person. And as we build out this team to try to become the best we possibly can, we a couple years ago said we wanted high talented players who came in here and put the team first and had the highest of character. And I think the last 2 years have been incredible. In my 33 years as a player and a little bit as a coach and now an executive, last year was my most fun that I've ever had with the team.
So that was kind of the open with Kevin Pritchard there. Now Pascal Siakam got the mic. He's thankful, but he's also wanting to win here in Indianapolis.
I'm excited, and I just can't wait for us, just continue to get to work. I think we accomplished some great things this season, but, I know that there's more, and I'm here for that. I'm here for more. I want to push for everything. I want to win a championship again. I want to continue to be a winning organization, and again, I think we have the group to do it, and I'm excited to work for it, and I've never been kind of scared to, take on a new challenge or things like that, so I'm excited about that opportunity, and I hope that, we're going to do great things together.
Again, Pacers off to Vegas here coming up in a couple of days. Their first Summer League game will be Friday. Speaking of the Summer League, the debut last night for one Zach Edey. Honestly, he got probably the toughest matchup he'll see in Summer League, facing Walker Kessler, who is somewhat accomplished, I guess, so far in his NBA career. And the Utah Jazz last night, 34 minutes for Edey, 7 of 12 from the floor, 14 points, 15 rebounds, 4 blocks, 3 turnovers. He did have 6 fouls. You can't foul out in Summer League. He also didn't shoot a free throw. Imagine the last time Zach Edey had 6, obviously can't have 6 fouls in college, but didn't get to the foul line. He tipped in a missed free throw at the buzzer to force it into overtime. The Grizzlies lost on the old Elam ending there in OT. But about, I think, what you would expect. There was one set play that I appreciate. Memphis didn't run a whole lot of set plays for him. But there was one set play that they ran for him, and they threw it in the post, and, there's all that action going around him. And, just typical Edey, calm.
Yep.
Keeping the ball high. Next thing you know, Jake LaRavia, fittingly, Indy zone, comes, running off a screen. Boom, wide open. Edey finds him, 3. It's just like those types of plays where it's not just like the thunderous lob dunk or something like that. Just kind of little stuff that Edey certainly is going to bring to the table. So that was debut for him. They do play tonight and tomorrow. Memphis is in both the Salt Lake Summer League and the Vegas Summer League. Obviously, I wouldn't expect Edey to be playing every single night. He turned his ankle early in the third quarter last night, so we'll see if he suits up tonight. He only exited for about 90 seconds in that one, but came back in the game. So nice debut for Zach Edey.
I think the biggest thing with Edey, don't you, is just him not being the focal point of the offense the way he was at Purdue. I mean, that's going to be the biggest difference.
Sure.
You mentioned them throwing it in. They threw it into him one time in a design play. I mean, Purdue would throw it into him on a design play 60 times.
Yeah, I would like to go back and watch the bucket. I don't know if he might have had one bucket off of an actual set to him.
I think you're right.
It was a lot of just, whatever, an offensive rebound put back, kind of a scramble situation. Guys find him. Not a whole, which, part of this is Summer League. It's not like you're designing a ton of stuff specifically for certain guys there, but That is what the Zach Edey debut looked like last night.
All right, baseball, Major League Baseball, Reds winners 6-0 over the Rockies. Your boy Ellie De La Cruz, 45 stolen bases now before the All-Star break. It really is. That is a ridiculous number.
We need him in the home run derby.
Well, I mean, I heard JMV talk about this yesterday, and I kind of agreed. I'm disappointed. You know, the young guys are the ones that are supposed to be doing the All-Star game. It's or the home run derby, right? It's like LeBron James never, in his great career that will last now over 20 seasons in the NBA, never once doing the dunk contest. Come on, Ellie. We got to get him in the home run derby.
Now, we haven't announced the full lineup, right, for the home run derby? I thought I saw there were still a few more to be announced.
I know like Pete Alonso's going to be in it for like the 5th time. The big slugger there with the Mets. He's probably
That's
trying
World
to
Series.
He's probably trying to woo a team to
pressing down in the dugout, right?
Well, he's the polar bear, so it's a good nickname. So we'll see what happens there. But 45 stolen bases before the All-Star break is absolutely ridiculous. Cardinals winners over the Nationals 6-0. Slow day yesterday on a Monday in Major League Baseball. Indianapolis Indians off last night as well. They start a 6-game homestand tonight, hosting Columbus. 7:05 at Victory Field.
I must say I'm a little confused. I just figured Mark would have done this. We did not book Will Haskett to talk new U.S. Ryder Cup captain Keegan Bradley.
I mean, did you want to? You were saying it has to be Eldrick.
7:45. Well, yeah, I'm disappointed it's not Tiger, right? Even though I guess we figured it wasn't. Now, Keegan Bradley is known to be a fiery personality type guy.
I'm all in on this.
Now, didn't he get into some sort of he got into some sort of like altercation during the Ryder Cup, didn't he? I thought I saw a video yesterday. He's got into it with other players on the course before. You tell me, you're the golf guy.
This is if TJ McConnell, James Johnson, insert your favorite walk-on here, Darrell Armstrong, if all of them had a kid,
oh God,
and you want passion and energy, you want bulldog, you want tenacious attitude, that's Keegan Bradley.
But you think you'll be good at this? Because Zach Johnson was terrible at it.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, nothing else has worked for the U.S. Ryder Cup team.
No.
Might as well try this. So, yes, Keegan Bradley, Tiger turning it down. He's got to focus on his own game.
Yeah, he's got to focus on other things. Yeah.
And if you, in all seriousness, if you want to watch what the Ryder Cup means to Keegan Bradley, the Netflix Full Swing series, have you dabbled in any of that?
I have, yeah.
There's a specific episode for him not making the team last year.
Okay.
Zach Johnson making that call to him. I thought it was, and again, I am a peak golf nerd, but I thought it was a pretty raw moment. And it paints the ideal picture of exactly why you see this headline scroll across the ticker and you're like, who the hell is Keegan Bradley? 50%, 80% of the sports world has no idea who he is. So that'll, gets a little bit into the background on exactly who he is and why the Ryder Cup means so much. So, yeah, how about that news?
Has he won a major?
Won the PGA.
Okay.
Boy, for some reason, Atlanta Athletic Club is
Okay.
popping in my head.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I know Keegan
Can
Bradley.
you name Keegan Bradley's college?
Oh, let me guess.
You have direct ties to this college.
Let me guess. He went to Clemson. How does that sound? Clemson with Jake Query.
We could be guessing, I think, until 9:30.
Okay.
Think about your Louisville roots.
Okay.
And where that human being now resides. I believe you watched this human being coach his team at Hinkle Fieldhouse this year.
Okay, so it has some connection to Rick Pitino or Thad Matta, is what you're telling me. I have no idea.
Where's Coach P?
Well, Coach P's in New York City right now. Is it St. John's?
Is he a Johnny? John's. When you think of golf
How about that?
powers,
Is it Johnny?
Do you think of the Red Storm of St. John's?
Usually go Georgia. I mean,
sure.
you
Everyone
go
goes
south.
to Georgia.
You go
Davis
south.
Thompson, who just won the PGA tournament last week, he's a Georgian.
Wasn't Patrick Reed a Georgia guy until he got kicked out? That's what I thought.
Making sure you got the pencil with the eraser on it a few too many times for old Patrick Reed.
Last thing for me, did you see Team USA basketball? Only won by 1 over the select team.
And Cooper Flagg was unreal, right?
I don't know if there's a box score for it, but Cooper Flagg, who's going to be at Duke this year, and he's going to be awesome, was balling out against the NBA All-Stars, and Team Select had a shot to win it, but Anthony Davis blocked. I don't even know what guard it was. He blocked the guard, and that's how Team USA survived, I think, 75-74 yesterday. How about that?
I saw they won by like 6 maybe in the first scrimmage. And now Kevin Durant, he hasn't played yet, right? Not to say like Durant is some savior, but he's been out.
He had a calf injury, I believe.
Calf injury. I do at some point today want to get into, I guess, 2 things with Team USA. First off, where do you see Halliburton's role? Secondly, end-of-game shot in Paris. Who takes it? Is it Durant?
No, Steph Curry. For my money, if you're telling me we need a shot to beat Serbia or Spain,
right?
I'm taking Steph Curry.
I think there are a lot of guys on that team that would like to think they would be the ones taking that shot.
Sure, there
and
are.
maybe the youngest player on that team taking that shot.
Well,
so
Anthony Edwards would be a part of that for sure.
So I
Anything
just
left?
think some I just think some interesting storylines with old Team USA for Steve Kerr and company.
All right, coming up on the other end, Kevin Pritchard said something yesterday. How do the Pacers stack up? Are they afraid of anyone who have made, free agent acquisitions in the last couple weeks? Kevin Pritchard said no. We'll play you that sound. Plus, Colts question of the day coming up at 8 o'clock. It's the wake-up call on this Tuesday, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Colts question of the day coming up in about 20 minutes. You guys see this yesterday? I meant to bring this up in the opening segment. Joe Burrow's ideas on, what the hell's the Barstool podcast? Part of my take. Did you see this about?
I did see this, yeah.
All-Star weekend, mid-season. If the NFL goes to 18 games, the 2 bye weeks is the thought there. Burrow's suggestion was throw in one of the bye weeks, like week 13, and make that All-Star festivities, i.e. no Pro Bowl, but, whatever games I guess they play. Zaire Franklin, I saw, retweeted that idea and gave it the fire emoji there.
I think it's a great idea, don't you?
I love the sound of it and all of that. I feel like guys are just going to want to get the hell away. I think they're going to want no part of it.
Yeah, I think, well, of course, don't you feel that way at the end of the year, too? So, I guess the argument would be at the end of the year, so many guys don't want to be a part of it. Last year, we love the guy, but Gardner Minshew was the Pro Bowler. He was a Pro Bowl quarterback last year. It
was one of these things where, even LeBron flew into Indy for the All-Star game for, 36 hours? And the NBA ain't, it's not as physically taxing as an NFL football season. By week 13, that body's pretty beat up. I like the thought. I like the idea. I'd probably have to see a little bit more details on it. Yeah. But, hey, credit to Burrow for being creative.
I liked it also in that podcast. Burrow's like, I think you should be able to taunt in the NFL.
Ooh, I do like that.
He's like, high school and college, I can understand if they don't want it in the game, but when you're a full professional and you're one of these pro leagues like the NFL, you should be able to taunt.
Act like you've been there before.
Joe Burrow's having quite the offseason, is he not? He's on podcasts. He does look like he's gained some weight. He
was a little more durable.
He was in Paris, walking down the aisle, not to get married, but
the backless suit jacket we talked about. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, he didn't have a back on his suit. That was the big thing for Joe Burrow in Paris.
You could pull that off, Kevin.
I cannot pull. I can't pull off really anything from a fashion standpoint. Speaking of Tyrese Halliburton in Paris, certainly he was among the reasons why Kevin Pritchard was as giddy as he was yesterday. Andy, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's been a while since we've heard from Kevin Pritchard. Just frankly, I thought to myself a little bit like, Chad Buchanan's the one that makes a lot of these public media appearances, whether it's on our station or even in some press conference settings. Have we seen a little, I don't know, passing of the torch, if you will? And, it was nice to hear from Kevin. Frankly, yesterday, I always enjoy hearing his insights. And he's very bullish on where the Pacers are at heading into this coming season.
Yeah, he is bullish. So, among other things, and this answer is a little bit long. He goes in many different directions, but, getting an offseason with Siakam, continuity, that was a big word that was used a ton yesterday. And then a couple different times in this clip, KB, he mentions how much he likes the team, how much he likes how they stack up in the Eastern Conference. Here's Kevin Pritchard yesterday on that very subject.
I think there were teams that, made some movement and got better. But, there comes a time where you try to balance, bringing in new guys with the ability to have some continuity. And I felt like, we've changed this team over so much in 2 years that, we need some continuity. We need a camp with Pascal and Ty and Miles and TJ and everybody even more to get used to each other and get comfortable with our style, because Coach puts in a unique style and it's a lot of fun to play. But I also look at it a little differently in that, Ben Mathurin was injured during the playoffs, and so we get to add him. And Jarris has had an incredible offseason. We have high hopes for Jarris to come in. And so there is some more organic growth left, but we're all still a very young team. And if everybody gets a little better, I think we stack up against anybody. And, we lost to Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, but we had leads in 3 of the 4 games late in the fourth quarter. So, the league gets better every year. Teams get better. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And Kelly Kroskoff is always saying that. I think by retaining our top free agents, adding Ben and Jarris and our youth getting better, that we'll be right there. We're not scared of anybody.
I mean, I just love the end. We're not scared of anybody. And, when I heard that and kind of, I don't want to call it rhetoric, but when I heard it, Pritchard say that, I like that. I mean, I think if you're a Pacer fan, you like that. What I find interesting, a number of things. Pritchard, his talking points there, KB, are what we have talked about here on the show. Is, now you add Benedict Matherin, and, you would imagine in some capacity as the season goes, Jarris Walker mixes in. He called it, organic growth. Guys get better, whether that be, look at Ben Shepherd getting better, even Tyrese getting better and everything else. I think the question for me would be twofold. It would be, for Pritchard or really just the organization, besides the, how Jarris Walker, the maturation of him, specifically Benedict Matherin coming back from the injury. To me, it's, having that training camp with everybody and knowing your team already. What tangible win, what on the win-loss record does that affect? Does that make sense? Because they're talking that up that, we get everyone in training camp. Okay, what is that going to mean? What do we think that's going to mean for this team? And then, he mentions the last couple years, a lot of moving parts with this team, and he's spot on as they have, this team was a 25-win team, and what they win last year, 47, and they made the Eastern Conference Finals. What is the... having the training camp, the continuity, guys getting, you would hope, a little bit better, adding an extra piece here or there. How much more difficult is it to go from 25 to 47 and now 47 to what are we thinking next year? 51? 52? Like that jump to get into the 50s win-loss wise, meaning you're going to have to clean up some games. You're not going to lose to Washington. You're going to have to play better against some better competition in the NBA, and then obviously have these sort of expectations when you get to the postseason that are going to be there next year. I thought they were pretty spot-on remarks on how Kevin Pritchard feels about his team.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to lose your cute little underdog. Let's sneak up on people.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. I guess didn't really have a bullseye on your back this past season. And, you can make the argument very well that this is kind of the hardest jump to make. I was pretty adamant that I thought the Pacers could be and should have been a 45-plus win team, and they were this past season. But again, now getting, north of 50, I think it's critical that you are having home court in the playoffs because, A, we saw how well this team played at home, especially late in the season. I mean, they were outstanding there for the final couple months of the season. And, obviously when you look at the East right now, we played this game last week. I mean, you start ranking teams and you start seeding out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, you get 1 through 6 and, outside of Boston, of course, you could probably just flip a coin on a lot of those teams. And, you very well could be looking at a first-round matchup of whatever, Indiana against Milwaukee again, and maybe they're healthy.
Cleveland.
Indiana against Cleveland. Yeah. Indiana against Philly. Okay, if Boston's a 1 and, New York's a 2 and Indiana's the 3 and whatever, Cleveland's a 4, okay, that, whoever that 6 is, it could be one of these teams. Obviously the Magic, probably talking their market like, hey, Boncaro and Wagner, here we are. I mean, we're now here after getting a taste of the postseason and things like that. I thought the other thing that Pritchard said yesterday that was very interesting to me was the in-season tournament opened the Pacers' eyes to saying, all right, let's make that big move. We're close. We're a lot closer than we thought. And there was so much discussion. And frankly, it was a popular summer topic last year when the in-season tournament was announced. What would the in-season tournament do to teams? Would they care? Would it mean something? And I think clearly for the Pacers, it checked all of those boxes. And it, clearly sent a message to the front office of, hey, let's go ahead and do something. And I think it also sent a message around the league indirectly of like the Pacers earned some respect. That teams around the NBA were like, well, I mean, that was pretty impressive what they did. I mean, they beat Boston in the quarterfinal. Then they got to a neutral floor, took punches from the Bucks, beat Milwaukee. I know obviously the championship game against the Lakers didn't go great, but still, to get to the finals, they obviously weren't a team that many people thought would be there at the start of that in-season tournament. And, Pritchard said that was a big point for the organization to think, all right, we're really, really close, and Halliburton, remember, was outstanding in the in-season tournament games. How can we go find another piece? And maybe it was that championship game against the Lakers when things got a little bit more to that offensive lull of like, hey, can you find a guy that can go get you a bucket? And, of course, that's where Siakam comes into play. So that was another takeaway I had yesterday of, okay, when did all of a sudden your mindset change a little bit from let's watch this new core, grow together. It was no. We feel like now in, early to mid-December, we're a team that's close. We can make a big swing and we could be there. And lo and behold, a month later, they made the big swing for Siakam.
We'll never know, but if they're not quite as good in that early parts, and maybe Tyrese is maybe not quite as good, and they're not quite as forceful in that in-season tournament, KB, do they go out and do they get Pascal Siakam?
It's a fair hypothetical.
Yeah, it's the great question that we'll never know the answer to. And I'll say this, the in-season tournament for year one for Adam Silver could not have worked out better.
Certainly.
You got the Pacers, and I'm just looking at the finals here, but you got the Pacers who cared about it, an organization that cared about it, a young team that helped kind of make their name on some of those games, and then you got the Lakers who, whether it was planned or not, LeBron James bought into it. So you had a young team that had helped kind of propel them, and maybe it helped them get a guy like Pascal Siakam. All of this, good for the NBA, good for the NBA to have this market to be crazy about their product. And then on the Western Conference side, you had, the Lakers and LeBron James very much buying in. I mean, if you're Adam Silver, you couldn't have asked for much more.
Team USA final shot. You're adamant that it's Steph Curry?
I'm taking Curry. He's the greatest shooter we've ever seen. I mean, it's going to be a 3, right?
Can I go Durant?
You knock yourself out. You go Durant. I got no problem with it. Durant's a fine player.
It's funny when you watch those games and you see lineups that are out on the floor, and like you hear Anthony Edwards' comments. I'm the number one option for Team USA. 30 seconds to go in a game, and they're tied. How willing are they all going to be to throw it around the horn? I think that. I mean. The managing of egos, the massaging of the egos, it all looks good right now in Vegas, but exactly what that looks like when teams put game pressure on them, I think will be absolutely just fascinating to watch and see play out. I noticed that, again, so far, I think Durant a little banged up. I know Tatum was out for personal reasons the first couple of games. The lineup that Halliburton had been playing the most with was LeBron, Tyrese, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, and Anthony Edwards. Halliburton's fit, Andy, like how Steve Kerr uses him, I just think he's unlike anybody they've got on the team. Like, he is easily the most willing passer, and he is the guy that, he joked about it half jokingly. I think he was kind of serious. He's joked like, I might do the Jason Kidd from a few Olympics ago. Remember when Kidd didn't take a shot
right.
for the first 40 straight minutes or something?
Right.
You would think Halliburton is going to have ego check at the door like none other, and is going to be so willing. And I'm curious, does Steve Kerr view that and be like, all right, I think we kind of need that? Or does he see it as, well, no, that's not somebody that we, I worry too much about his ego. We don't need to get him heavily involved, et cetera, et cetera. Tyrese's role within Team USA, very interested in.
Who would be last on the list of guys, last second shot? Who do you not want to take the last shot? Bam?
Devin Booker.
I caught some heat yesterday. There was a thing, it's like, who's the worst player on this team, on Team USA? And I said Devin Booker. Some Kentucky fans did not like that. But Booker's a little one-dimensional. I get why he's out there. He's a fine player. I'm not denouncing him, but, I'd take him last.
Do you have a starting lineup
team
you would like to see?
Yeah, I think the starting lineup is going to be what? You're going to have Curry, LeBron, Anthony Edwards, and then do you go Embiid and Anthony Davis in the front court? And right now, I'm leaving Durant off just because he's a little bit older. Now I do have LeBron. He's a little bit older, and right now he's banged up, right? And so I'm not ready to put Kevin Durant if they're nursing that calf injury, but I'm saying that Jason Tatum just won the championship. Am I leaving him off? I mean that's the situation I'm in.
It's so funny, who you end up leave it off.
Well, I mean, listen, I could bring Anthony Davis off the bench, put Embiid at the 5, and go Curry, LeBron, Anthony Edwards, Tatum, and Embiid and be just fine.
I'm going Curry, LeBron, Embiid, Durant, and I'm going Drew Holiday.
Okay. Yeah, I got no problem with that.
First 2 off the bench, Kawhi and Edwards.
I love the Kawhi story. Didn't play, so many games for the Clippers, but now for Team USA, he's going to play 5 weeks later.
The big thing with Team USA in the past years, Melo took on the role at one point. Dwayne Wade took on the role at one point, kind of that 6-man role. The mid-range game for Kawhi, that can play well in FIBA. Yeah, I mean, I just said Kawhi and Anthony Edwards first 2 off the bench, and I'm like, wait, where's Jason Tatum?
I know.
Where's Anthony Davis?
You forgot about Jason Tatum.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
you did.
It is a great problem.
I mean, they can go big, they can go small. I mean, it's going to be a fun team. Listen, I'm jacked up for this. The team select pushing them. I wasn't too worried about that yesterday. I think the biggest takeaway from that is I just think Cooper Flagg of Duke is going to be ridiculous, and people are going to get back to hating Duke. So Purdue fans, Indiana fans, get ready. You're going to hate Duke next year.
I saw someone tweet yesterday the tanking for Cooper Flagg just started 2 months earlier.
Yeah, who gets him? That's going to be a lot of fun. Let's take a break. All right, running backs, Jonathan Taylor. ESPN has a list. We're going to use it to kick off our Colts question of the day. Hour number 2, Around the Horn. Wake up call 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
This time tomorrow, we will be inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse about an hour into our appearance there, leading off, Fever Mystics, noon game tomorrow. So our first ever broadcast inside of the Pacers Arena. And not often you get the old matinee action there for either the Pacers or the Fever, of course. But it is going to be tomorrow, and I'm liking our lineup for guests right now.
We're the pregame show.
We're the pregame show.
How do you feel about that?
Correct. I'm a little nervous.
Caitlin Clark.
I'm a little nervous. Is the person practicing the national anthem going to go off at 9:30 in the morning in there?
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Red Panda is going to be doing some practice laps.
That would be awesome. That would be electric. Frisbee dogs.
We'll have inside information if the individual singing the national anthem is going over or under the time, like we always gamble on the Super Bowl.
Who are our jump ropers from Cincinnati? What are their names? Is it the Firecrackers?
You know what? I think that sounds right. The Firecrackers.
Very elite at what they do.
Does the guy who does Simon Says have to do like practice runs?
I think the Simon Says guy is absolutely brilliant.
Okay, so
he's very good.
I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna say you didn't like it.
No.
I love the Simon Says guy.
Outstanding.
I love it.
Simon Says guy can snap his fingers and get 13 people out in just a blink of an eye.
In a second.
It's like the visiting team starts to walk out for warm-ups. He's like, oh, boy, I got 27 people left. Boom, boom, boom. Now we're down to 3.
He was at the Horizon League Championship game that we went to, and they had just the cheer squad from both teams. He knocked out half of them on the first thing.
Yeah, he's really good.
It was wild.
Yeah, what's the name you just mentioned? The woman that flips the cups up on her head?
Red Panda.
The Red Panda.
The Red Panda.
Mm-hmm.
Now, reports the last couple years that she's lost her fastball a little bit.
There have been moments of Tiger Woods, recently, but I still think
is understandable.
I still think 2019 Masters is in there.
Again, you're on a bike trying to flip cups up on your head. I understand that's not an easy thing to do as she ages. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, the flexibility starts to go at some point.
Again, we will be out there tomorrow. Very much looking forward to that.
My flexibility's already gone.
I was going to say, we did the presidential fitness test talk last week. Speaking of a guy that certainly has great flexibility and great speed of the open field.
What a transition.
Let's hit our Colts question of the day.
Time now for your Colts question of the day.
All right, Andy Sweeney. It's, I think, forgotten, frankly, and how last season ended. But Jonathan Taylor, in my opinion, had the best game of his career to end last year. And again, the sour taste of losing to Houston at home, what transpired on 4th and 1. We forget 30 carries for 188 with Gardner Minshew next to him. We forget going to the locker room for a brief period. The thought was he wouldn't return. He comes back in the game. The big touchdown run where, that was not blocked up to be whatever, a 40, 50-yard touchdown run like he hit. Jonathan Taylor, what is in store for him, and what does the league think of him here as all that contract talk is now on the back burner?
Yeah, no, as we get to late July here, we move into August. Lists, you'll get power rankings, you'll get lists and everything else. I found this one to be interesting. Posted yesterday, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN.com. He asked for votes from general managers and scouts and player personnel people around the NFL, league executive, coaches, and everything else, just to kind of see, hey, who are the top 10 running backs right now in the NFL? And so when I saw this, obviously I thought of, okay, where's Jonathan Taylor? And Jonathan Taylor is super interesting because where would you rank him? Because last year, he wasn't talked about much last year, but he did end the year really strong, like you mentioned, with the Houston Texans. He never had his quarterback. He had injury issues. He had the contract thing and everything else. So last year, I don't want to say it was a lost year. It was just a very different year for Jonathan Taylor. So we'll get to Taylor here in a second because he is high on this list. Christian McCaffrey's number 1. I don't think that's surprising. Breece Hall is number 2.
That one did surprise me a little. To be clear, this is for this season. You're not
season.
Building a team.
No, this is for
this
this coming season. I mean, obviously last year Breece Hall was unranked, and this year they feel like he's going to have a big year. Nick Chubb is number 3. I don't think I would have Nick Chubb that high, given his injury. Saquon Barkley is 4, and then Jonathan Taylor is 5. I can read just a couple things. An AFC scout says Taylor is still explosive. Last year, he was beat up. The Colts eased him into things, but he's probably the best combination of size and straight line speed right now. Another AFC executive said, expecting a huge year from Taylor, still an impact player. Now, just to round out the top 10, Bijan Robinson with Atlanta at number 6. Josh Jacobs now with Green Bay at 7. Jahmyr Gibbs with the Lions at 8. Derrick Henry's now with Baltimore at number 9. And Travis Etienne Jr., Jacksonville at number 10. Your thoughts on that list?
Well, first, I had no idea Josh Jacobs was a Packer. So thank you for
you didn't know that?
Filling me in on that. So
Did you forget?
Yeah.
Barkley to the Eagles, Henry to the Ravens, Jacobs to the Packers. Those were the big running back moves.
And Jacobs got paid.
DeAndre Swift to the Bears.
Yep.
If you consider that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a domino off of the Phillies.
Swift was an honorable mention.
Well, I guess it makes sense Packers-wise, because wasn't that a Jonathan Taylor rumor at one point last year?
It was.
I think that was it. Some of these lists I tend not to scoff at like some other people do. You see Chris Sims has Anthony Richardson ranked here, and people freak out about it. I think Taylor should be higher because I don't think, based off these quotes or just in general, how they describe Taylor in the write-up, they're not accounting for Anthony Richardson enough. Richardson next to Taylor, I think, is the greatest attribute this Colts team will have in 2024. I think it's dynamic. I think it's potent. I think it strikes fear in an opposing defensive coordinator. And when is the last time the Colts had a real offensive threat that did that? Too much was on Taylor's plate, even last year. Taylor, when he had a big game, you still, what'd you score? 19 points against Houston in that season finale. So, I've brought up this play so many times from last season, but I think it's so indicative of what Richardson means. And ironically and sadly, it was the game he got hurt in, and it was the last game of his rookie season. But if you go back and watch Zach Moss's big touchdown run against Tennessee in that Week 6 matchup, and it's a short yardage situation, and Richardson plays out the fake very, very well. 6 in the belly of Moss, and if you watch Tennessee's defenders, multiple of them go to Richardson, are worried about him keeping it. And so here's Moss, and no one is going to confuse Zach Moss for a home run hitter. He is not. I mean, what did the AFC executives say? The best straight line speed.
Yeah, with Jonathan Taylor, still explosive, but he's probably the best combination of size and straight line speed right now, which is, that's saying something.
That is high praise,
It is.
And no one describes Zach Moss in that light. But yet, the fact that Tennessee had multiple defenders accounting for Richardson, as soon as Moss got to that second level pretty clean, he was gone. And again, we're talking about totally different speed running backs in Moss and Taylor. So the fact that now, when you get to 4th and 1 this season, you won't have to throw the ball to Tyler Goodson in the flat is just a huge, huge benefit to the Colts. So, 5th on the list, can you make cases for those other running backs? I understand. I mean, several of those guys, especially Christian McCaffrey, of course, impact on third down, and I get that really, really matters. But again, the Richardson-Taylor dynamic could not be higher in anything for the Colts.
Yeah, I think a few surprises for me. I would have, and listen, I'm not going to go nuts whether he's 3 or 4 or 2 or whatever else. I would have Jonathan Taylor ahead of Nick Chubb. I would. That would be the one. I mean, Nick Chubb went through that gruesome injury last year. I know Cleveland likes to run the ball. I just think Cleveland is a team that is going to take a step back this season. They just are. I think Deshaun Watson is washed. And, I think Nick Chubb, we'll see. I'm going to have to see Nick Chubb bounce back and kind of get
such
that.
a horrific knee injury.
Yeah, and get that workload. I would say Breece Hall's interesting just because he's got all the physical stuff. But, it's the Jets. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be there? That offensive line has been bad. But, I know people, when you talk about guys under 25 years old, you mentioned guys on third down. Breece Hall can do that. He absolutely can do that. So I'll be interested there. And I've been, this is not me to hater on Saquon Barkley. I think Barkley this coming season is going to have a pretty big year for the Eagles. I think he's going to have a very good year, I should say, for the Eagles. And then next year, he'll be 29 years old. And, I think then you start to maybe see some of that wear and tear. So, you always forget Jonathan Taylor's only 25 years old. You sometimes forget that. He's only 25 years old. So if I were doing this list, I'd probably have Jonathan Taylor closer to like third instead of fifth, third or fourth instead of fifth.
Taylor's last game would indicate there is none of this, but I am curious for the Colts here with Taylor in a full season with Shane Steichen. Do you walk into the season with an ideal Taylor pitch count? You watched it, right? You watched the Giants' first Hard Knocks episode?
I did, yes.
So for our audience that missed it, I thought there was a cool clip in there with Frank Gore, Joe Shane. Am I saying that last name right?
Yeah, Joe Shane, yeah.
Joe Shane, the Giants GM, and Malky Kawa, of all people. Jonathan Taylor's agent.
I thought of you.
We remember
I should have brought that up. I thought of you when I saw him, yeah.
We certainly remember Mr. Kawa and sometimes this liking of Kevin Bowen tweets. But nonetheless, the discussion came up, and Frank Gore, I think, is the one that kind of spearheaded it. Frank Gore said to Joe Shane, like, what does your evidence or how much do you pay attention to how many carries running backs have in college? And Kawa kind of butted in like, yeah, don't you guys say like at age 27, things start to go the other way for running backs? And Shane mentioned the evidence does say that. And it was part of the reason why they felt like Barkley was a little bit more expendable.
Oh, yeah. Think of how many times he touched the ball at Penn State.
Well, Taylor's in the same boat.
Taylor's in the exact same boat at Wisconsin.
That's why I bring it up. You watch Taylor last year in Week 18, and you'd be, 30 for 188. 30 carries for a running back in today's NFL? That is an astronomical number. So do the Colts try to get ahead of that in any way? Because there is no Zach Moss right behind Taylor this season. It is Trey Sermon, and just unknown, I think, how the reps will play out behind him. And again, does Richardson's presence alleviate some of that? Obviously, he's more of a run threat than, whatever, Aaron Rodgers next to Breece Hall or, somebody like that, of course. I am curious about that because part of me thinks of all the running backs in the league, Taylor might have the highest percentage of carries for his team. Like, there won't be a lot of split stuff between Taylor and Trey Sermon or Evan Hall or Tyler Goodson or whoever else you want to throw into that mix there. So how the Colts view a healthy Taylor in the spring, healthy training camp. He's such a weapon. 30 carries in the most important game of the season last year. Obviously, 30 is not going to be the week-in, week-out number. But do we see Taylor hover around 2022? Do the Colts say, hey, man, we paid you that money for a reason? They might not say this to him, but like, we'll run you into the ground. Or is there a little bit more of a, hey, let's kind of September, October, hover around 12 to 15 carries. We want him to reap the benefits of it in November, December, and January because he does have, nearly 1,000 carries in college on his tires that not a lot of people have. So that, to me, is going to be, I think, a dilemma that this coaching staff has got to think about heading into the season.
Well, let me ask you this. We both feel that instead of, this easing in or changing or limiting runs with Anthony Richardson, both of us are guessing here, right, KB, that Steichen is not going to do a lot of that, this is the way AR plays, and they're going to, I don't want to say run him into the ground, but they're going to utilize his abilities. That's probably the nice way of saying it. We feel that way with him, don't we? With Anthony Richardson. How much? And again, Anthony Richardson has played precious little football compared to the wear and tear that Jonathan Taylor has had in the NFL and in college at Wisconsin. But do they use a similar viewpoint that we think they're going to use on AR? Do they use that on Jonathan Taylor? I think you're right that Taylor in pure rushes, I think on just go through anyone in the NFL, I think he'll be up near the top, don't you? I think if Nick Chubb were to come back healthy, Cleveland has proven they're going to run the football. But, Breece Hall is a guy that will probably leave the field a little bit, but he is a third down back. And again, I'm not talking about receptions. I'm talking about just pure rushes. I feel like Taylor would be probably near the top of that list, don't you?
Yeah, and it's
second, third, maybe in the NFL.
It's a good point you bring up about the curiosity with like, hey, again, I don't think Steichen views limiting Richardson's reps in any way, shape, or form. But with Taylor, Philly did rotate a lot, running back wise. So,
oh yeah,
does that history play into it at all? And again, I think the Taylor carries will be high, but I also don't think you can ignore just the overall age, the grind of a 17-game season. I mean, him having 30 carries for 188 last year in Week 18 came after what? He played in 7 games besides that. I don't know what his official game total was, but remember, he had the thumb injury.
Oh, yeah.
Which sat him
Missed
down
a couple games, yeah.
for a couple of games there in December. I totally forgot this about Joe Shane. He went to DePaul.
Yeah.
Elkhart, Indiana. Thank you to October's Finest tweeting at me here. Joe Shane from Elkhart was my high school quarterback.
Oh, how about that? So you watched the show?
So DePaul has produced Brad Stevens and Joe Shane.
How about that? It's big time.
I watched just that clip because it hit social media.
Okay.
Am I missing anything?
No, I mean, that's okay. I told Mark this off the air. They're 30-minute episodes.
Is that right?
If you like Hard Knocks, where you get to hear football guys behind the scenes, talk about a 6-7 win football team, that's what it is. If you like the behind-the-scenes football stuff, episode 1 was not all, but, I mean, it was obviously predicated around what are they going to do with Saquon Barkley. Joe Shane is very much we're not paying a running back type of general manager. Whether that's good, bad, somewhere in the middle, however you come down on that very much is how he feels. I'll say this, 2 other things on Jonathan Taylor. I know how I would look at it is you have 3 years with Jonathan Taylor. I'm giving the damn football to Jonathan Taylor for 3 years. Again, he's an unrestricted free agent in 2027. By then, it'll be, 28 and a half years old. I'll worry about that kind of wear and tear then. And he might not be my problem then after 3 years. That would be number one. Number two, had the Colts done enough at backup running back? Do you think? Given that we're having this conversation of, is Taylor going to be in there on every third down? The conversation of running backs get injured in the NFL. It doesn't have to be a Nick Chubb gruesome knee injury. It can be a thumb injury that can keep you out for 2, 3, 4 weeks like we saw last year with JT. Have they, we haven't talked too much about it because of the excitement of the running game with AR and JT back. Have they done enough at running back? I mean, last year, Zach Moss was a really good player for this team.
I'm largely fine with it.
Okay.
And I probably just don't view backup running back as something you need to seriously invest in. And I know there's no way saying that without it being a discredit to Zach Moss. But, I mean, Cleveland lost Chubb in week 2, and they lost a million quarterbacks, and what they do, they still got to the playoffs.
Right.
It just, of all the positions out there, it just seems to be the most expendable.
I guess I'm only surprised given that they put a premium on running back. Not everyone puts the premium on running back.
A little flirting rumor with A.J. Dillon at one point this offseason. Am I imagining things?
I think there probably was. I'm not too much on the A.J. Dillon
Did he go back
bandwagon.
to Green Bay?
He is in Green Bay, yes.
I believe Josh Jacobs.
I believe he went back on a 1-year deal, or he still had a year left. I can't remember exactly. Or he still had that year left.
Now, I'm going to ask you to really nerd out with me here over the Pacers Summer League roster, all right?
All right, let's go.
So, earlier we talked about a starting 5 for Team USA. You want to go with a Pacers Summer League starting 5? Or is that just peak nerdom?
I'm going to have to look up who's on
That's peak July sports radio, I think.
Yeah, it really is. You already have this ready.
Because, again, last night...
Pacers Summer League roster. I don't know everyone on the roster,
I don't think. I'm watching Zach Edey with the Grizzlies against the Jazz, and I'm like, man... I noticed I had heard of 9 of the 10 guys.
Sure.
In that starting lineup. And I was like, all right. I mean, that,
It's like a reunion of basketball Summer League
I feel like
can
people
be.
are going to watch the Pacers Summer League team that aren't us, and they're going to be like, damn, this is boring as hell.
This team was in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Which,
that's what they'll say.
obviously is a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst teams, of course, have the most notable people. All right, how about if I throw one out and
All
you
right,
can counter, okay?
You go ahead here.
All right,
yeah.
I'm going to go Tristan Newton running the point, all right?
All right, I mean, I would agree with that.
Let's go with an even more aggressive Ben Shepherd, who Rick Carlisle adores at the 2.
I got him.
They're saying Jarris Walker is a 3, right?
Jarris Walker is your 3.
I would like to get Johnny Furphy in the starting lineup, but I don't think I can.
No, I think Furphy's coming off the bench, right?
Okay, so Enrique Freeman at the 4.
I would agree. So far, we're spot on together. Now, who are you going at the 5?
Well, I got to go with your guy, right?
Well, who's my guy?
Oscar Sheboy.
Okay, I forgot about Oscar. Yeah, I go with Oscar Sheboy.
So we're good with Furphy coming off the bench, and the other 2 second-rounders.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're fine with that.
I mean, Shepard and Walker have got it. And in an ideal world, Shepard and Walker would play the first 2 games, look like they're at a different level than anybody else on the floor.
And get them the hell out of there.
They're out, and then Furphy, gets a ton of minutes for the last couple games.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine Ben Shepard's going to see too much summer league, right? I mean, what is he?
Well,
what is he going to get out of it? I
we
don't
get
know.
more into this maybe on the other side, but I think what Shepard needs out of it, what Walker needs out of it, are 2 very different things. Like, I think they want Shepard to walk into Summer League and be like, hey, man, this is Belmont senior night. You go off. Like, you takeover mode. Don't, we love how you play the game. We love it. We know that's in you. We know you've got the high motor. We know you pass up good shots for other shots, but maybe I'm misremembering. I felt like Shepard didn't shoot it great in the postseason. I know Rick said to us yesterday that he had the highest efficiency rate or something. I felt like Shepard's shot dropped off a little bit there. So it's like, I just want to see him, feel a little bit more of a, hey, I can really play in this league and just be more of a scorer if they would ask of him to do that.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference Finals were not good for Ben Shepard. He shot 27% from the field. He shot 8% from three-point range.
Boy,
he shot
even worse than I thought.
Yeah, he shot 1 of 12 from three-point range.
Yeah,
it was not good.
Yeah, that's obviously bad.
But he was much better. I mean, what's crazy about it, you go back, I mean, in that New York series, he shot 48% from the field, 45% from 3. Game 2, he had 11 points. Game 1, he had 8 points. I feel like he had valuable minutes there, and he's pretty good in the Milwaukee series. Shot 50% from the field. I mean, he's very good.
So I just think it's different what you want out of Shepard versus what you want out of Walker. I mean, you hear, and we're going to play a Jarris Walker clip here in a bit. I think he's heard the message. I mean, you heard it from Rick Carlisle. He echoed something that I've said really ever since the Summer League roster was announced and Chad Buchanan told us Jarris Walker would be playing. Right now, SportsCenter showing Zach Edey highlights. Zach Edey dove for a loose ball last night on the floor. That's the stuff that the Pacers, I think, want to see from Walker.
Right.
Edey had a couple of big plays at the rim, protecting things. Walker, isn't a rim protector, but, those defensive type of plays, again, that's what the Pacers want to see out of Jarris Walker. So I just think it's going to be very different when things get underway Friday, what we will be watching for out of Shepard versus what we'll be watching for out of Walker.
And then locally, 2 names we got to be watching. Our guy, Dakota Mathias, and Lance Jones.
Yes.
On the team.
Well, that's...
Come on. Get out there, Lance, and pull.
That's wake-up call guest, Dakota Mathias.
Yes, it is.
Is he the oldest member of the Summer League? Do they list ages on that?
They have their birth date, so I would have to do the quick math, but let's see. I'm scanning it here.
What year was Mathias born?
He was born in 1995. Jamani McNeese was born in 96. A lot of 2001s and 2003s. So, yeah, looking at it, it looks like Dakota Mathias is, quite frankly, easily the oldest man on the team.
Just says date of birth dust, basically.
So Johnny Furphy says to Dakota Mathias, hey, man, can you buy me a case of Foster's?
He is 9 years older than Johnny Furphy.
Mr. Furphy wants a little Foster's.
He's got a decade of Foster's.
In his downtown apartment here. Reminisce about home a little bit.
Remember the Foster's commercials, Australian for beer? Mm-hmm. Those were good commercials.
How could you forget?
I feel like I haven't seen one in a decade. Have you?
I remember drinking a Foster's on my birthday one time. I'm trying to think who got me that Foster's can, but it was...
Was it a joke?
It was a semi-joke.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
it's okay, but...
The can is so iconic.
Remember when they had the cans? Mark, you remember this. Remember like the 48-ounce cans that you could buy? It was like a mini keg.
Why does Mark remember the 48-ounce can?
You don't? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I look to Mark for my alcohol. I don't know why I would do that.
You tape one to each hand, and you got to finish both of them.
Oh, yeah.
The old 40 action.
The Edward 40 hands, or whatever that is called. Oh, yeah.
Come on,
Did that a few times.
I had a buddy in college who would attempt that every Thursday. Never really seemed to make it.
Every Thursday?
Yeah.
That guy has a problem.
Well, yeah.
What do you mean he would never make it?
Well, I mean,
he's got to make it.
He's still alive. Let me be clear off that.
Well, no, you couldn't finish the 40 ounces or the 80 ounces?
For some reason, I'm picturing, was it multiple 40s? Was it 3 40s?
Oof. It's 120 ounces
had
of
the
malt
frame
liquor.
To be able to handle it, but yeah, the malt liquor got the last laugh on that.
The frame. Sounds like you're talking about Jonathan Taylor. He has the frame to carry the ball 414 times this year.
I am, Taylor, getting back to Taylor, I do think, is there an element that it's just different than the Wisconsin running backs? Because that was kind of a knock on the Wisconsin running backs. Fill me in on the other ones. Melvin Gordon. Who's the other one? That was a high pick.
Oh, goodness. I'm blanking. James White, but he wasn't a high pick, obviously. Wisconsin.
One more.
Oh goodness, that's gonna kill me too. Monty Ball was
Monty Ball.
Was that who you were thinking of? Okay.
So Ball and Gordon, very decorated college careers as well, like Taylor. But the thought there with Taylor is he had the frame and the speed. And again, some of this kind of falls in the category of what we talked about to open up the show of the Pacers yesterday singing these kumbaya about, how we've created this comfortable environment for Pascal Siakam, and Siakam has felt, loved here and all of that. It sounds mushy, but it's real. With Taylor, all this talk about him at Wisconsin was the plane would land from his 220-yard day at Rutgers,
right.
And instead of going to the party, he'd go to the ice bath, and he would do his, rehab, and he'd do a bunch of prehab, and he got, unlike a lot of, I don't know, maybe players of that age, Taylor was thinking far ahead about his career. Is that going to aid him now as he reaches that age,
the mysterious age.
Right.
He's getting close to being there. So
and there is
27.
part of me that thinks that could happen and that he might last, again, a little bit deeper into his 20s than most running backs do. Better than the old 40s there that were drinking college.
If you had
Old English 800, King Cobra.
If you had to guess.
King Cobra, that's the one that I remember
That's
the
the
most.
one. 2017, 18, and 19. Just take a shot. I'm sure you've looked at this. How many carries he had? He had very few receptions at Wisconsin.
Wasn't it
almost
right
none.
around 300 carries each year?
It was. 2017, he had 299 carries. 2018, he had 307. 2019, he had 320. Oh, man.
Michael brings up Ron Dane. I've heard some Ron Dane drinking stories at Wisconsin.
Are we talking football or drinking? Yeah.
You want to talk about a man that I don't think was going to the ice bath after the game?
It was a terrible draft pick.
Lord Dane. Is that a Heisman winner, Ron Dane?
It is. I'm pretty
Did
sure
your Giants draft
he
him?
was a first rounder. Yeah. Remember, they did find, he teamed up, if I'm not mistaken, with Tiki Barber, and then he had they found another spot for him to where they could utilize him, but that was not a good first-round pick. But, I will say, even when the Colts moved up and they got, Jonathan Taylor, and you look at it, you're like, okay, these are over 900 carries before he gets to the NFL. I mean, he almost had 1,000 touches he had 1,000 touches if you throw in receptions, in college before he got to the NFL. It was one thing. I remember the Colts moved up. I'm thinking, man, boy, there's a lot of tread in that tires. But Jonathan Taylor is fantastic. And there's, him having some injuries, he didn't have a full, carry load this season. Last year was not a full Jonathan Taylor is touching the ball 318 times. That's not the case.
Could either of you name the other two teams Ron Dane played for in the NFL?
Did he play for Green Bay?
No.
He did not play for Green Bay. I have no idea.
For some reason, Denver's popping in my head.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
He was only there for 1 year, too. One more, his last stop.
Boy, that's a rough one.
It was in the division.
In the AFC South?
Mm-hmm.
Houston.
Boom.
Yeah, because I knew he didn't play in Jacksonville. So he played in Houston. Okay.
Did he do anything in the NFL?
900. He had 3,000 yards in the NFL.
I mean, did he have a 1,000-yard season?
No, he did not. No, his first 2 years with the Giants weren't bad. He went up over 700 yards, had 13 touchdowns. He was okay. But again, he wasn't a first-round draft pick. He went 11th overall.
He's 46 right now.
Boy, Ron Dane on the bingo card, not what I had on this Tuesday.
I did not think we were getting into Ron Dane talk.
Morning. No. How did Zach Edey look? We'll hit that in the morning checkdown, but let's lead off with the big day over there at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Yes.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. Season tickets are on sale now. Order by August 1st for your shot at the best seats in Hinkle Fieldhouse. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Yeah, big day yesterday for the Pacers, officially introducing the contract extension there with Pascal Siakam. You've heard a lot from Kevin Pritchard in the first hour and a half or so. Let's mix it up a little bit. I mean, he alluded to this with us yesterday. Again, find our 23-minute conversation with Rick Carlisle up on the podcast center at 1075thefan.com. Carlisle, I found this to be interesting. The biggest free agent signing in Pacer history?
This is easily the biggest free agent signing in the history of this franchise. And so there's a lot to celebrate. Hats off to Kevin and his group and Mr. Simon, as Kevin mentioned.
So that was kind of, Carlisle didn't say too much other than, praising the defensive effort, even though he joined in the middle of the year from Siakam. So that was head coach Rick Carlisle. As for Siakam himself, near the end of the presser, KB, he was asked about making Indiana home, making Indianapolis home. Here's what he had to say.
I'm excited, to make it home. I'm here, I'm here to stay. And just for me, like, I'm excited about, how excited the city is about the team and everything. And it's been great for me. Like, I love everything about it. The organization makes it easy for me. And I'm excited to continue to learn about Indiana. And I'm sure that, the more I'm here, the more, I get to learn. So I think now that I'm here and I know that I'm here, it's probably like easier to kind of get embedded into the culture.
Shout out to Pascal's brother, the legend Christian Siakam. I watched him a lot at IPU. I loved his footwork in the posts. Pascal, very complimentary to his family yesterday and what that meant to them. All right, last night out in Salt Lake, Zach Edey, Summer League debut for him. The numbers look like this: 34 minutes, 7 of 12 from the floor, 14 points, 15 rebounds, 4 blocks, 3 turnovers. In the Summer League, you can't foul out. He had 6 of them. He did not attempt a foul shot. He did have a complaint or two about the officiating and trying to finish through contact. He faced Walker Kessler, which I'm like, literally starting the game, I'm like, is this going to be Kyle Filipowski? And all of a sudden, the girlfriend's going to have to scratch his back after the game. I'm like,
it's at least a legit NBA center, right?
Right? Very legit. Like the most legit NBA center you're going to find in Summer League.
Probably, yeah.
So I'm like, I'm now like a little bit more on the edge of my seat watching this one. So, a couple things that stood out. I thought protected the rim really well. You are reminded of, even at the NBA level, he just cleared. First off, there's more spacing, and he clears so much room for guards to operate off the pick and roll, guys to get in the lane. That obviously is going to be something that won't show up in the box score, but is huge for him. They didn't run many set plays for him. They ran a great set play in the first quarter for him in the post. He was very patient. All these guys cutting off him. Boom, there's Jake LaRavia, Lawrence Central product, drilling a 3. But facing a guy like Walker Kessler, that's a little bit more athletic length than, of course, he's used to playing through. And I thought at times there was a bit of a struggle there for Edey on that end. Highlight-wise, what you'll see probably the most on SportsCenter or something like that this morning, he actually missed a tip dunk that would have given Memphis the lead with like 10 seconds to go in the game. It ended up being a chaotic foul-up 3 situation. LaRavia, great miss of a free throw. There's Edey for the tip-in at the buzzer.
Actually worked. Never worked.
Forced overtime. The Grizzlies did lose in OT. So what will the Summer League schedule look like for Edey, I guess, moving forward? Memphis actually plays tonight and tomorrow. They're in both Salt Lake and then the Vegas Summer League. I would assume at some point you wouldn't play Edey. Like, you don't play 3 straight nights in a row. He did twist his ankle a little bit in the third quarter, stayed in the game after sitting out for just a minute or so. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. But all in all, I thought a lot of what you are used to from Edey, but at the same point, I didn't see Memphis run a whole lot. He was involved in pick and roll. It was probably a mixed bag on that end of the floor. So I think kind of what you would expect out of Zach Edey's first NBA game.
I think you got to dump the ball into him a couple times. Do you not?
I would have liked to have seen a couple more like actual sets. Now, there were some plays where, like, again, pick and roll, he's rolling, and they did feed him. And again, finishing through Kessler wasn't obviously the easiest thing in the world. But that is an aspect that I'm really interested in. Like, how much will Memphis literally run set plays for him? Because, again, last night, it's not like he scored off the set.
Right.
But he helped get LaRavia an open 3. Because everybody just watches him. He's so damn big when he touches it. I feel like you just naturally turn to him and you're waiting to help.
Yeah. No, I think, listen, if you're going to have him on the team, I think you got to throw it into him a little bit. And then him not having a free throw, I thought his first basket he was actually fouled on. I think maybe in college, if that was, Michigan State, maybe he gets an and 1 there. So him not having a free throw. And then I was also looking, would he take, and I don't know how many 18-footers would he take? Would he take a 3? Would he take some jump shots?
I was waiting for that last night.
And you didn't really see any of that. So those are the couple things. But, all in all, 14 points, 15 rebounds, 4 blocks. It's interesting. He had the 6 fouls. Who do we have on before the draft that said the thing that will be interesting to them is him guarding because Purdue would not let him foul? and now at the NBA level he's going to foul. Who do we have on? That's the first thing they said is
was it
now
Kristen
he can.
Peak?
Maybe that was it.
Because she hated the draft pick.
Well, she didn't like the pick, so
She did not.
And then she went to where? Istanbul.
Istanbul, that's where she's at.
Should we hear from Zach Edey, Summer League coach? This is Jason March last night on what he saw from Edey in his debut.
Up in the second half kind of things. What did you see from Zach Edey in his first game out there in terms of getting up and down, but also being a presence on both ends of the floor?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask questions. They question, can he move? Can he do this? The guy is 7 foot forever and can block shots, and he's so active, and we're in push on the side, and he does such a great job of playing in between both. Look, the guy, I mean, what a heck of a career. I mean, he knows what he's doing out there. He's going to be just fine. You saw the rim protection, and I'm sure things were moving a little quick for him, and then he turned his ankle, wanted to go back in, so we let him roll. And I think, he's got a bright future.
Yeah, so there's this head coach talk, and he does have a bright future. 14 of 15, 4 blocks in the loss last night. All right, let's move on to some baseball. Reds winners 6-0 over the Rockies last night. Ellie De La Cruz, 45 stolen bases in the first half, and we're still in the first half of the season, so good for him there. Cardinals over the Nationals.
Nice trade piece at the deadline.
Yeah, you gotta get that farm system, get going for the Reds. So maybe you move him. I don't know. We'll see.
Sweep this week in your back end.
Cardinals 6-0 over the Nationals, and then Indianapolis Indians off last night. They start a 6-game homestand tonight, hosting Columbus 7:05 at Victory Field.
Other items of notes, 2 American men in the Wimbledon quarterfinal. The last time that happened, Andy Sweeney, where were you in the year 2000?
2000, I was in high school. Y2K, baby. We were ready for all the computers to blow up and, all the money to disappear from the banks and everything else. But
buying all the spam in every Walmart in town.
Yeah. What a sad statistic about American men tennis. Shout out to Taylor Fritz. Tommy Paul, awesome match yesterday for Fritz, coming back from 2 sets down to get to the quarterfinal on that end.
All right, let's take a break. On the other end, Jarris Walker, he met with the media a couple days ago. What did he say about his role? We'll dive into that. And reminder, Gil McGregor, Sporting News NBA insider, will join us at 9:30. We'll keep things going on this Tuesday. Wake Up Call 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Tomorrow we'll be at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Not very often we go off-site show-wise, but we will be there, obviously from 7 to 10 a.m. I guess the lead-in, if you will, to Fever and Mystics coming up at noon tomorrow. You can watch that locally on WTHR. Very much looking forward to not only doing a little remote action. It might be eerie in that building at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
Well, I mean, that's the thing I am worried about is it might be quiet in the building. Players, Caitlin Clark might be getting up shots, and we're going to be screaming, 15 rows up about God knows what tomorrow.
Ron Dane!
We're going to rehash our Ron Dane conversation from today.
Foster's Australian for beer. Maybe ask Christy Wallace, the Australian Olympian, if she would like a Foster's.
You guys should bring 40s and see if anyone wants to partake.
Just sneak them in the bag. I'm sure they'll be fine with that.
Anybody want some of this Mickey's here?
In with the remote equipment.
Some Red Dog.
Trying to behave. Get the guests that we've been hoping for and kind of move on. So,
now, you're bringing the family? They're meeting you there afterwards, or what?
I'm going to bring Rosie and her cousin, so our niece Ellen as well. So looking forward to that tomorrow. So a little day out of summer school for Rosie. So looking forward to that coming up tomorrow at noon. Speaking of Gamebridge Fieldhouse, Rick Carlisle's comments yesterday, Andy, really stood out to me, Jarris Walker related.
Yep.
And before Carlisle's comments, Walker spoke to the media over the weekend and describing kind of what he has heard from the coaching staff, what he wants to get out of this summer league experience, and really just heading into year 2 in general. So, again, this is Jarris Walker from over the weekend. Again, he will play in summer league coming up this week, describing what he's heard from the coaching staff on what they want out of him.
Just focusing on, obviously, defense, rebounding. That's what's going to take us to the next level, but also doing all the little things better, too, communicating, boxing out, seeking on defense, just kind of all the little things, pressing up on ball screens, just things to keep me on the floor and just things that will help our defense and offense as well.
That ain't sexy.
No.
But that is exactly what that makes Rick Carlisle smile, hearing that.
Yeah, well, okay, so here's my question. A lot of times, you're watching these things, you're passively watching these things unless you lock in and you know a ton about what the Pacers are trying to do and what Jarris Walker is supposed to do. Like, besides just like the rebounding numbers, are we going to leave a game? How are we going to leave every game feeling about Jarris Walker if we're not totally evaluating him on things that we see in the box score? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I think they want things that are not in the box score. Well, rebounds are, but not everything defensively or hedging screens or the way he maybe runs the offense if he plays some point. Those are things that the coaches are going to know whether he's doing well or not.
Well, and again, Summer League I'm always torn on. A lot of people are like, hey, look at this player. And how awful they were in Summer League, and then look at how they turned out from an NBA standpoint. Or look at this player and how good they were in Summer League. Last year I thought Andrew Nembhard was outstanding.
Right.
And then, boy, look at how that carried over into year 2. So I get, if this was some sort of debate class in junior high, you could easily have evidence for both sides of it. And I want to go back to something we discussed yesterday post-Carlisle interview. I said to you, Andy, I think Rick Carlisle's I would say high-level energy in describing Jarris Walker. I mean, he went on for 3 and 4 minutes yesterday answering those questions with us. I think it comes from this standpoint. Walker has something in him that the Pacers didn't have last year.
Right.
And that is that ability to be a bigger wing defender that can provide that element. And I also want to make sure we reiterate when you hear the Pacers say, hey, we want a little bit more conditioning from him. We want a little bit more of this is how you work at the NBA level. I don't think they view Jarris Walker as a bad apple by any means. I just think this is something of to get to this level, it's different. It's different than IMG. It's different than Houston, even though, I think Kelvin Sampson probably runs things in a pretty
but it's different.
Intense
it's
manner.
Different
but
than
it's different.
It's different than a 40-minute college basketball game.
And
it
I
just
thought,
is.
Chad Buchanan said this to John yesterday, and you mentioned Walker through his rookie season. Obviously, he never got very consistent clock for the Pacers. But there was a point, about 2/3 of the way through the season, Chad Buchanan said, all of a sudden he felt like things switched for Jarris Walker, where all of a sudden the game would end and people would start to close up shop and they'd look in the St. Vincent Center and there's Walker getting one-on-one work in. at whatever, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And like that aspect to him, they feel like has started to be there a little bit more and more of. You got to go the extra mile. You can't rely just solely on the incredible athletic gifts that got you to be a 5-star and got you to be a top 10 pick and all of those things. So again, I don't think like by any means they are displeased, disappointed in Walker, feel like it's going to be hard to get this out of him. You need a James Wiseman wake-up call here on your third NBA team. No. I don't think they're there at all with Walker in that. And I think you hear his words and you hear Rick Carlisle talk about him. I think there's such an internal belief that, again, he can provide that. It's probably a reason why they didn't felt the urgency to go out and try and do something crazy this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, the Pacers, to me, they're just in an odd spot because they have their max-level guys. They have the role players, but how many teams that are playoff teams, not even, take the Eastern Conference Finals out of it, but are just playoff teams, KB, have a couple guys that are top 10 picks, that are lottery picks, that you still think, and we all do, especially with Jarris, that there's a lot there to give, right? That they can still get a ton better and go from, a non-factor, essentially a red shirt last year, to, being in the rotation this year. I think with Summer League, you want to leave these games with the coaches praising Jarris Walker. You want to leave these games feeling good about what you saw from him. And then I'll say this as well about Jarris. You mentioned JMV in his interview with Buchanan. I view Jarris as, I think some people view Jarris as, we have a good team. Why give him a spot, right, in this rotation? I don't view Jarris that way. I think it's what you said. I view Jarris Walker as, he's going to have to earn everything. I mean, Carlisle has said it 900 times. He said it with us multiple times, press conferences multiple times. Buchanan has said it. Pritchard has said it. Everyone with the Pacers has made it known that we love this guy, but he's going to have to earn it. For me, Jarris Walker is not I'm replacing someone who's in the rotation. He ain't replacing Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin is just paid $15 million a year. What Jarris is what you said. He is an addition. He does things, or we think potentially could do things that some of the other guys can't do. Obi Toppin and Pascal Siakam might not be elite defenders. Well, Jarris Walker, in their mind, might be able to be an elite defender. They need help rebounding the basketball. You saw it last year. You definitely saw it last year against the Knicks, okay? Well, maybe Jarris Walker can rebound the basketball. I don't take him as he's going to be getting playing time and not earning it and taking it from somebody else. I think he's going to have to earn it, and I think it's an addition of things the Pacers don't have that he can bring them, and I think they know it. That's why Carlisle sounded excited about the challenge of this offseason for this guy.
I thought Carlisle was almost giddy in describing what they feel like could be there with him. I mean, it took like 3 minutes for Carlisle to get to the natural offensive gifts, which I thought we actually saw from Walker. A decent amount.
Well, I thought we saw more of that than anything else.
I mean, the guy shot 40% from three. I mean, he wasn't doing that at Houston there. But again, I'll echo something I said yesterday. The Pacers have Obi Toppin to do the flashy stuff, to catch the lobs, run fast break, hit open shots, et cetera, et cetera. They need the other stuff. And I think that's what they hope. Walker, and again, I don't want to act like I am pigeonholing Walker into only being able to be a defensive stopper. No. I thought I saw more offensively that gives me hope there can be something there. Now the question is, again, can he become kind of rooted in that defensive element? Because to earn a spot, which, Rick Carlisle says a million times.
He's going to have to do it.
He's going to have to do that because there are we did the minutes game last week. There's no 15 minutes sitting there. If you want to give Jarris Walker 15 minutes, you're taking 10 off of Aaron Nesmith's 25 minutes a game. And what? You're taking 5 off of, is Obi Toppin now playing 10 minutes a game? Is Benedict Mathurin playing 16 minutes a game? I mean, you are eating into established guys to varying degrees in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so the Jarris Walker conversation, it'll be one that we continue to have, and definitely when Summer League gets going on Friday. Let's take a break. We'll wrap up hour number 2. Reminder, Gil McGregor, Sporting News NBA Insider, will join us 9:30 to Tuesday, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, Andy Sweeney, soccer right now, right? Copas, Euros. What did I just hear about Indy 11 in an Open Cup?
Okay, so
because that team they're playing is an MLS team.
Yes, so they're facing Atlanta
Will
United.
Hawks be there? Will we get a grand appearance here?
I would imagine that's probably not going to happen. So it's 7:00 tonight, and I apologize. I'm sure Scotty will text us. I know JMV is going to be down near the stadium somewhere for a remote today. So Indy 11 faces the Atlanta United. This is basically Indy 11 if you think of like AAA baseball facing an MLB team. So the U.S. Open Cup, this is the quarterfinals. And I got to be honest, I don't know anything about Atlanta's team. But so basically in the U.S. Open Cup, it's just for teams here in the United States. And any team can be in the tournament. Lower level soccer teams are in the tournament. Then all the way up to USL, like Indy 11, they're in the tournament, and MLS. And if we, put our heads together here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan, and we wanted to create a soccer team, we could enter and do the things to enter a tournament, a soccer tournament. So I don't know. It's a cool thing. I mean, Indy 11, I'm sure they got a pretty good chance tonight to beat Atlanta United. I'm not sure who with Atlanta has left it, any of these other tournaments. I do not know that, but, it's always a good chance when the small guy can beat the big guy, and it could happen, and Indianapolis is hosting. It's the quarterfinals tonight, so good luck to them. How about that?
Eddie Garrison relays JMV at the shop tonight.
The shop. There you go.
Mass Bottle Works area for that.
That's swanky for him.
I have
big
half
time.
my closet is from the shop.
From JMV. WWE has a new announcer, Mark. I'll tell you who that is on the other side. Plus, a thought on Pascal Siakam. 9 o'clock hour. It's coming up. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
9 o'clock hour here on what started as a muggy and looks like a rain-filled Tuesday here in Indianapolis. We're going to have to umbrella it over to fever practice later today.
Well, I was wondering, what are we going to do?
Is that awkward? You and I sharing an umbrella walking over there?
Well, so
do I own an umbrella in my car? That's maybe the better question.
I know I don't have an umbrella in
maybe
my
that
car.
got towed a few weeks ago.
Which
with
is such
else.
a bad idea that I'm going to be 40 years old and I don't. I mean, it's a very grown-up thing. You get a $5 umbrella and you throw it in your back seat, the trunk, under the seat, the side, the sideboard, whatever. You just throw it somewhere in the car so you have it. But I haven't done it. You haven't done it. Mark, I don't know if you've done it.
I have an umbrella, yeah.
Well, okay, so you have an umbrella. And then the other thing, I was just going to stay here. We have meetings and stuff at 10 o'clock, so I was just going to, I could run a couple errands, but I was just going to stay here, get some lunch, and do all that. And then I looked down today, and I'm wearing my oldest Crocs, so I can't be, number one, I can't even wear these. They have paint on them, so I don't want to, be interviewing people with paint on them. And
You're
then
wearing Crocs to the fever practice?
Well, the other thing, it's going to rain. It's going to rain out, so I'm gonna have to run home.
Get over to Cambridge Fieldhouse. You're going to need a towel to wipe off your feet as we head in there.
Who's this guy running around in Crocs on the floor?
It'll probably be the last time we ever do a game, do a show.
Andy
from
Sweeney squeaking around the arena.
Cambridge Fieldhouse.
Speaking of Eddie
there.
Garrison, he just texted me. He goes, you need to have one. The metal end you can use as a weapon.
Oh, wow.
For an umbrella. Well, I did not think of being mugged at some point and using the umbrella.
Here I am playing checkers, and Eddie Garrison's playing chess.
What's he, Liam Neeson? What's he, 5 steps ahead of us?
Hey, Robert, let me get my trunk here, and let me get my umbrella.
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me get this umbrella.
Pistol whip away, and let me grab something.
I'm surprised you don't have one of those big golf PGA umbrellas, one of the huge ones. You know,
I had a
Come
golf
on.
umbrella in high school.
Yeah.
But I, that's my golf bag, so I don't. Yeah, I
good point.
Can't say
it stays with the golf bag.
Stays with the golf bag. Yeah. More important things than me trying to stay dry in public.
Before we get to the Siakam talk, let me make good on the tease. I don't know how many people care or not, but you know Joe Tessitore, right?
Oh,
Joe
sure.
Tessitore, who is great on college football. He is a great TV play-by-play guy for college football. I know it did not work out with him and Booger McFarland, and who else was a part of that? I can't even remember who the third guy was.
Was it Olsen?
Was it
No,
Olsen?
no,
it wasn't
it
Olsen.
wasn't Greg Olsen.
Who was it, man? I can't even remember.
Greasy?
They tried.
No,
maybe.
it was, what's his name? The Cowboys tight end.
Jason Witten.
Jason Witten, yeah. That didn't go well.
That's exactly. Well, he's got no personality, does Jason Witten. Anyway, so it didn't work out Monday Night Football, but he is great on college football, big-time SEC games, ACC games. He is now going to be in the 3-man booth for Raw and SmackDown coming up here later this summer. I think he'd be fantastic for that. High energy. He can scream at you without it being too much. I like Joe Tess. So you okay with that, Mark?
I'm fine with it,
okay.
yeah. The WWE world and the sports world are coming together with McAfee and
yes, they are.
Halliburton, Roman, Jalen Brunson in the stands. So, yeah.
Big
the more the
things.
merrier. Bring him on.
So I like that. Good for Joe Tess. I'm sure it's a good paycheck as well.
Just needs to bone up on his wrestling stuff. You don't want guys coming in and not knowing anything about it.
Sure.
That happened to what was his name? Adam
Amin?
Yeah, not Adam.
Adam. Who was it?
Somebody. It was an old sports guy, but yeah, he didn't know anything. He
didn't know
mispronouncing
anybody?
wrestlers' names,
Oh,
and
come on.
he drew the ire of the fans, and he was not
How
long
dare
for the
he.
job. Well, that would be like going to a sports broadcast and not knowing, who Joe Burrow is.
Comparing
Joseph Burrow
to some
Joseph Burrow on the field right now
seems a bit crazy.
Who could he not pronounce? Like Undertaker.
He called like
Undertaker.
I think he called John Cena like John Cena or something like that.
Oh, come on. John Cena's a legend.
I know, he's about to hang it up.
He is.
Speaking of random
Royal Rumble in
announcers,
Indy, Kevin, you got to get out there. It's his last Royal Rumble. You better be there.
Did you catch who did play-by-play last night for Zach Edey's first Summer League game?
Okay, I did not until this morning. Tell the people.
The voice just literally, as soon as I heard the voice, I'm like, that is an iconic voice. And then once they showed him on camera and popped up the name, I was like, it all makes sense. Craig Bolerjack. Does that ring a bell?
It did not to me. No, it did not to me.
Well, I guess maybe he'll call some of these other Summer League games. Once you hear the voice, you're like, yes, NCAA tournament games galore. I feel like is what I recall. Craig Bolerjack. I was looking up his bio last night. He did the Hampton Iowa State game. You remember that iconic NCAA tournament game from Boise?
Do. Oh yeah.
I think the Hampton coach got on the old scores table to celebrate.
Oh yeah.
That one. So. Again, we've shared Zach Edey stuff throughout the day. I want to go back to something Pascal Siakam said yesterday. That, again, I think when I first heard Kevin Pritchard emphasize this a lot, I thought it was a hair cheesy when he first described it. And this is a couple years ago now, where Pritchard was basically like, all right, we don't have the ocean. We don't have the nightlife. What can we do to entice stars and keep them? Obviously, money helps greatly, and I don't want to ignore that the Pacers could offer Siakam more money than any other team. By all accounts, the Pacers have one of the best practice facilities in all the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Their training staff continues to get praised. I mean, Paul George, I think, is even well after his career here in Indy, has continued to praise what the training staff did for him.
By the way, did you see Paul George yesterday? Sorry to interrupt. You see him yesterday. He's like, yeah, I really wanted to stay in L.A., but they couldn't make it happen with the money.
Yeah, he was
So now I'm in Philly. They're my third choice. Like,
Did he
okay.
say 2 years, $30 million was what the Clippers offered him?
Yeah.
Isn't that what Tobias Harris got with the Pistons?
Maybe it was 2 for $60. 30
okay,
per.
30 each. Sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
30
Yeah.
per, but still, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, when you compare it to Tobias Harris and the Pistons, that probably resonates a little bit there. But I do feel like it's a real element that the Pacers have embraced, and that is this: we need to create comfort. We need to create these guys feeling wanted, desired, all of those things, appreciated. And you hear Siakam talk yesterday, and it clearly has already happened with him. And this can happen in little ways. You know, I brought this up in the opening segment. Think back to last year at this time. You know, Benedict Matherin's mom comes in and, cooks a Haitian dish for, not only Benedict, but, his fellow teammates as well to, a little bit of, just that home lifestyle for him. Whether it's the one-night road trips the Pacers occasionally have where it's like, hey, bring your mom on the road trip here. It might seem little. It might seem like not and it's not 20 extra million you can give a player. But I do think some of this stuff, and you have to have the right person to appreciate it, I do think some of this stuff matters. And the Pacers have made a very concerted effort at it. And again, early on, I thought it was cheesy. I thought it was kind of stupid. But I think they've really taken it to heart. And when you hear Siakam say the ideal of change, leaving Toronto for the first time in his NBA career, was daunting, and he was nervous about it. And then to hear his genuine joy yesterday in describing what the Pacers and Indy, even in the brief time he's been here, has meant, you could tell it matters. And so I just think a credit to Kevin Pritchard for embracing that, the organization for thinking outside of the box and not being, woe is us in the small market. We can't get those guys. We can't keep them. No. Don't think like that. Be open-minded to it. Try different things. They've done that. And in Halliburton Siakam's case, I think it's clearly worked.
Yeah, I mean, they've been able to figure out how to, in the last couple years, KB, how to flip this roster, how to get guys. It's almost like they have went on, you think of the trade a couple years ago that got Tyrese Halliburton. You think this past offseason, during the season, getting Pascal Siakam, it's almost like, I don't know, is it a blind date? I mean, I know these, they know the players and the players know who the Indiana Pacers are. They played in Cambridge and everything else. Even Siakam talked about that yesterday. It's like, I played in, Cambridge, but boy, the fans were sure a lot different, the half season I was with you guys. I don't know. I feel like I think the Pacers have got, in the last few years, have they not, a chance to woo a couple stars in the league. And they've nailed it both times. That's how I feel. They have been given a couple opportunities. Tyrese Halliburton, okay? You trade for him, and you help develop his game, and he loves you, and you love him, and you give him the big contract. There's no fighting about the contract. You say, let's go. And then he makes team all NBA team. So you can offer him more money, and there's no, griping about that. And so, they've had a good marriage with Tyrese Halliburton, and then they got the opportunity by trading for Siakam before the trade deadline. And what happened? I mean, that immediately was a good marriage, was it not? I mean, Siakam, when he was here, and then, the days went, and then the weeks went, and he kept saying great things about the organization saying great things about him. They've just had a couple opportunities to make things warm and fuzzy, to show stars, hey, we can be a place where you can win. and they won the hearts of two guys. And listen, I'm with you. The money means something. The years mean something. They meant something to Tyrese. They meant something to Siakam as well. But, a lot of times you can trade for a guy and it's an okay relationship. And they made sure it wasn't an okay relationship. They made sure it was a great relationship, and that's how you keep guys in your fold, and that's how you keep a team around that, could contend for the Eastern Conference. Let me ask you this. We haven't talked too much about this. Siakam, it was funny yesterday, Pritchard, it was like in the middle of an answer. He goes, hey, and listen, we think Siakam can get better. We think, I'm paraphrasing, his shooting has to get better. I mean, Pritchard was very open with Siakam standing right next to him, sitting right next to him about, hey, he's going to continue to improve his game. He's going to understand defensively what we're doing. What we're doing defensively here is a lot different from what he had to do, his responsibilities and duties there in Toronto. I was going to ask you that. I don't know. Where do we think Siakam's going to be different or better? Yeah, because he's been very consistent the last 6-7 years. He's been anywhere from between 22, 23 points a game.
Right. I'd have to go back and double check. I'm pretty sure he shot a career high from 3 last year with the Pacers.
He did. He shot 38.6%, which is the best since 2018.
Okay, so
for Siakam.
I don't know. How much better can he get? Frankly, shooting the basketball. Now, again, that's something I brought up to you yesterday about, okay, how much does the general, hey, here's a training camp, here's a full off season, here is, Tyrese Halliburton with you as a healthy player, how much of that plays into it? Part of me is there. Part of me also thinks, when you incorporate a guy like Benedict Mathurin more on the floor, does that take away some of the reliance that you inevitably had on a guy like Siakam from a shot standpoint? I think that's something that you have to look at as well. So I still will, echo I don't think his game is going to age poorly. I don't. But I don't know if I sit here and think all of a sudden he's taking some massive, massive leap as a player.
Yeah, I was surprised, quite frankly, when they said that.
Yeah, and again, there's an element of like Kevin Pritchard getting some of these press conferences, and it can be, you get 3 and 4 minutes into an answer, and next thing you know, Siakam's talked about with MJ and LeBron and Kobe, and it's like, okay, all right, he's a very good player, but let's pump the brakes a little bit on that end of it. So. Yeah, I don't want to, I'll acknowledge what Pritchard said, but I don't want to go too much further than that. I still think he can be a very quality player early into his 30s. I think just in general with guys that reach that age, if you do ask of them to guard a little bit more on the perimeter, I think you're always curious about just how will guys hold up, in the league. He didn't play a ton of minutes if you look at it from a, college standpoint necessarily, or even on, early in his NBA career. It's not like he was an 82-game starter from day one, playing 35 minutes a night, something like that. So I think the Pacers feel good about, again, him aging well into his 30s. But, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and be, Siakam's a first-team All-NBA guy.
I think it's defense. I think that's it. Carlisle, and I didn't cut this, but Carlisle gave a pretty impassioned, he kind of interrupted yesterday and was like, hey, what Siakam had to do defensively for Toronto was not what we were asking him to do here in Indiana. And I think that, we talk about his offensive game. I don't think he's going to go from 22 a game to 29 a game, okay? We agree with that. I don't think he's going to go from, 37, 38% from 3 to 44%. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think where Siakam is, I think the place they could praise him early on this season is defensively. And I think that, to me, is what I found most interesting. Let me play you this. In the middle of an answer, here's Kevin Pritchard yesterday mentioning how they need to get better at defense.
Offensively, I have no doubt that we're going to be really good. And our challenge is, can we get better defensively? And that really becomes everybody making a commitment on that side of the ball. But
yeah, you go to Jarris Walker, you go to Siakam, you go to Tyrese needs to be better on defense as well. It took until midway through the season, until what? It was right around Christmas, the New Year, if I'm not mistaken, that the mantra for this team was, hey, we got to get better defensively. I'm wondering if Carlisle and company take that, and that is the preseason number one conversation, because when we got to Christmas, he changed the starting lineup, and every time we ask him about anything, KB, on those Tuesday meetings, he went back to what? He went back to defense. Our defense has to be this, or we won 4 out of 5 because the defense has been that or this, or since Christmas our defense has been ranked here and there and other things. So I think that's going to be the interesting thing. But I don't expect Siakam to be 29 points a game now and average 14 rebounds a game and have that sort of jump in the stat line.
I feel like even his rebounding total was one of the highest of his career last year as well.
He averaged almost 8, which is yeah, it's his best since 2021.
So
the Raptors.
Yes, to answer your question, that will 1,000% be the adage come September and October of, it's all about defense and rebounding. And you know what? We could pull out Nate McMillan clips from 8 years ago, and he said the same exact thing at a Pacers golf outing to get ready for the season. So it's kind of been the franchise's, mantra, frankly, or I should say lack thereof, in that time span as well. But, defensively, largely, it just comes back to the point where it's I think it's easily the biggest bummer about this roster. When you look at your highest paid guys, whether it's Halliburton, whether it's, Siakam, whether it's Toppin, I guess McConnell with an extension might even qualify as that. None of them you're asked to defend these elite wings. None of them. I mean, it's Neesmith, it's Nembhard, it's maybe Jarris Walker. It's not those guys. So you obviously want those guys on the floor that you pay so much money for because they're so gifted offensively. But when you have a lot of them out there, you're susceptible on the defensive end. And, it seems like, and this is where I'm a little concerned and a little questiony of, it seems like we're all holding hands together saying, guys, everybody grab one more rebound. Guys, everyone defend a little harder.
Right.
Okay. I mean,
not everyone's going to.
If it was that easy, wouldn't everybody just go ahead and do that? And why has it been an 8-year now run for this franchise? So that's where I sit here and am a little bit of this is going to be the biggest question mark. And I think that will be the ultimate separator of where you at on these tiers within the Eastern Conference, because, Kevin Pritchard, I think, even admitted yesterday, as much as he's bullish on his own team and internal growth, he acknowledged there are teams out in the Eastern Conference that have gotten better.
Oh, yeah.
And so, how do you stack up to their maybe lack of chemistry versus your chemistry, but, a little bit more, I guess, hope on growth and continuity.
Hope on growth. I like that. That's gonna be the title of the season.
Blue collar, hope on growth, gold swagger.
Doesn't have
like
much
that?
zip on it though for an NBA team.
Is that going to fit
Go
on the
hard
shirt?
in the paint. Hope for growth.
Is that not the new city uniforms?
Oh goodness, I like the city uniforms. Do you see the? You see the Sixers are bringing back the black Iverson jerseys.
Ooh,
that they
those
wore.
are good.
Remember
those?
those?
Are solid.
I like that.
Oh, dude, those were great jerseys.
Have the Raptors brought back their old
dinosaur ones?
I don't know. Have they? I mean, all those throwbacks are fantastic. I love a good throwback jersey.
I think that's an absolute must.
What's the most hated Pacer jersey?
People hate. I think a lot of people did hate the Hickory jerseys. I didn't mind them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember when's the last time they wore those.
By the way, should we walk into Gainbridge Fieldhouse tomorrow and do was it Gene Hackman that did the Echo, or was it a player on the team?
I can't remember. I haven't seen Hoosiers in 15 years.
I think the most hated Pacers jersey was probably the City jersey from 2022. Remember that?
Oh yeah, what was that?
It looked like a zipper. It was
good
black
call
on one side, blue on the top.
Okay,
It was ugly.
I remember that one.
That one turned out to be that one grew on me slightly, but it would probably
Initially,
be my
you're
least favorite.
What the hell is that?
Yeah. I love the ones. Shout out to Rennick Bowman. I love the ones last year. I thought the color was really cool.
I did too.
I know
thought they were
made
good.
a lot of appeal off of that. I thought that was outstanding.
No, I think it was well received. I mean, they wore those a lot, and B, they kept the court like that.
Yeah, it probably helps
bit.
when they're good in them.
Yeah, well,
the gray City
games.
jerseys were also, I think, kind of poo-pooed on.
Yeah,
I think the
kind of looks like the sky outside.
I think the NFL historically has the worst throwback jerseys. Like the Giants this year wearing a terrible jersey. Green Bay wore that terrible jersey the last few years. Remember the Bumblebee?
You mean their usual jersey?
Remember Big Ben and the Steelers were wearing the Bumblebee? I still think the 1996 denim UK basketball ones were pretty bad. If we're talking about bad jerseys. I don't think the Pacers have truly had a bad jersey. The hickory ones are on the edge.
I'd like to
I
burn
don't
the
mind
Bears
saying it.
orange
They're on the
jerseys.
edge.
I feel like every time they wear those, they lose.
They lose. Well,
they lose already.
I was about to say they don't need any
lose
help
more
in that
those.
department.
See, the Colts don't really change things up. The Colts are very traditional.
They did the Indiana Knights
Yeah.
this past year. I can't remember which game it was, but they were fine.
Yeah.
They're black, right? If I'm not mistaken.
They're a nice change
Yeah,
up.
that's fine.
I like the helmets, but like even when they've done like Peyton that one year, they did throwbacks on Thanksgiving. It's nowhere near as drastic as some of these other teams.
There's not much you can do with white and blue.
No.
There's only so many combos.
No.
There's not. So, all right. Well, good stuff. Want to get into a morning check down?
Let's do it.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. Season tickets are on sale now. Order by August 1st for your shot at the best seats in Hinkle Fieldhouse. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
All right, let's start with the Pacers press conference. Pascal Siakam officially announced yesterday. A joyous occasion. Everyone very happy. We, of course, had Rick Carlisle on. You miss any of that conversation, 1075thefan.com. Let's get with Siakam. He's here, he's happy, and he wants to win another championship.
I'm excited, and I just can't wait for us, just continue to get to work. I think we accomplished some great things this season. But, I know that there's more, and I'm here for that. I'm here for more. I want to push for everything. I want to win the championship again. I want to continue to be a winning organization, and again, I think we have the group to do it, and I'm excited to work for it. And I've never been kind of scared to, take on a new challenge or things like that. So I'm excited about that opportunity, and I hope that, we're going to do great things together.
Yeah, things you want to hear from Siakam. One more, we haven't heard this one. After the season, he wanted to feel wanted. We've talked a lot about the Pacers making him feel wanted every step of the way. Here's Siakam again yesterday.
From when the season was over, I had my exit meeting, with everyone, and just from those conversations, it just confirmed everything to me, and everything we talked about. The goals that I want to achieve as a player, and I want to achieve, whatever team I'm on, they had those same goals. So I think for me, it's just it was kind of like a waiting game.
Again, Pacers Summer League going to take place starting Friday will be the first game. And as Rick Carlisle mentioned to us yesterday, the Pacers brass will be out in Vegas. Coming up, taking in USA and Canada. That is a late one tomorrow night, 10:30, the first exhibition game for Team USA. I want to say that's an FS1 game, as they'll play a handful of exhibition games before things start in Paris. All right, speaking of Paris, the man that said no to playing in Paris, that would be one Zach Edey. He wanted to play in the Summer League with the Grizzlies, and last night he made his debut. The numbers look like this. 34 minutes played, 7 of 12 from the field, 14 points, 15 rebounds, 4 blocks, 3 turnovers. He did foul 6 times, whistled for 6 fouls. You can't foul out in Summer League, though, which I guess is a good rule. He didn't attempt a foul shot. You think he ever played a game at Purdue without attempting a foul shot?
Boy, I tell you, I would have to look it up, but I just can't believe it, right? And why did they let him not foul out in Summer League? I mean, they have full rosters over there.
I don't know. I think
if it gets to 6 fouls, what are we doing?
Yeah, part of me is maybe stop at 7 or 8. I mean, if you fouled that many times, you probably deserve to be out of the game.
I mean, come on.
Not a lot of really set plays run for Edey or anything like that, but again, his matchup was, I would say, rather legit. Walker Kessler is probably the most quality big guy he's going to see here in Summer League. He was on the other team last night. I think you watched Edey. You certainly saw him protect the rim. You saw him carve out plenty of space for his fellow guards to operate in, just from a screen and a rolling to the basket standpoint. Made a couple nice plays when they did throw it into him. They didn't throw it into him a ton, to be clear, but made a couple nice plays there. And I would say you have to acknowledge there were times where he did struggle to finish through contact, and just it won't be as easy as the jump hook over the 6'9" big man for Iowa. So what is that going to look like here at the NBA level? Didn't really see him attempt anything from a mid-range or three-point standpoint there, but big tipping of a missed free throw for Edey at the buzzer that sent the game into overtime. So Memphis will play tonight and tomorrow. We'll see if Zach Edey will play. Here was their coach, Jason Marsh, last night on Zach Edey's performance.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask questions. They question, can he move? Can he do this? The guy is 7 foot forever and can block shots, and he's so active, and we're in push on the side, and he does such a great job of playing in between both. Look, the guy, I mean, what a heck of a career. I mean, he knows what he's doing out there. He's going to be just fine. You saw the rim protection. And I'm sure things were moving a little quick for him, and then he turned his ankle, wanted to go back in, so we let him roll. And I think, he's got a bright future.
Yeah, I'd like to see, Edey maybe doesn't play tonight, but plays the third and final game, right, in Utah. I'd like to see that. A couple more games.
He did turn his ankle like in the third quarter.
Yeah, we'll see.
So.
And again, that's why you wouldn't play him tonight, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Only miss about 90 seconds of it, but.
So there's Zach Edey, 14 and 15. Quickly, Major League Baseball, Reds winners 6-0 over the Rockies. Your boy Ellie De La Cruz, 45 stolen bases now in the first half of the season. Absolutely ridiculous. Cardinals over the Nationals, 6-0 as well. Indianapolis Indians off last night. They start a 6-game homestand tonight, hosting Columbus 7:05 at Victory Field. You got anything else?
No, we got Gil McGregor joining us next.
Gil McGregor,
right?
Sporting News. We'll talk some NBA. We'll do it next here on The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline. You heard him on with us a couple weeks back. Enjoyed the combo with Gil McGregor from Sporting News, and he's joined us again. Gil, I don't know if you're a big Olympic basketball Team USA watcher. Andy, my co-host, and I, we were discussing this earlier, and we'll throw the question to you, I guess, to lead off. Team USA's down 1 in the gold medal match. Who do you want taking that last shot?
Oh, man, with the hot question right away. You know what? Honestly, the real answer is whoever's night it is. But to answer the actual question, thinking about the clutch play and what we've seen in their NBA history, I kind of lean Kawhi Leonard. It depends on how healthy he's going to be, but he's a guy who I trust with the ball in his hands, big shots. I think that's kind of what you bring him in for situations like that. So I'm going to go Kawhi Leonard. Maybe that's off the beaten path, but I'm going to go with Kawhi.
How about all three of us going with a different answer? Andy went with Steph Curry. I went with Durant. I kind of thought the height with Durant. I mean, you know,
fair.
Opponent depends on a lot. I mean, hell, if you're playing France, I don't think you want Embiid against Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert in that moment. But if you're playing a smaller team, maybe Embiid would even be a guy that you would throw it to. So it's a good problem to have, I guess, Gil, when, you know, we have the variety of names that we do.
Absolutely a great problem to have. It's a very talented team for sure.
What do you think, just quickly, what do you think Tyrese Halliburton's role will be with this team? How much run do you think he will get? Obviously, Hall of Famers everywhere, but, you know, I'll be seeing some of these practice films. He's on there with LeBron and AD and Anthony Edwards, and, you know, he doesn't need to shoot. He can distribute and be just fine doing so.
That's the first thing I thought. He is going to have an absolute field day. What we've seen him do, the way he set the table up for all his Pacers teammates this past year and his All-Star teammates when he played in the All-Star game, he is going to have a fun role of throwing a lot of lobs, finding a lot of shooters. I do think the flexibility of the team and the different types of matchups that they'll have with the different countries they face will allow his role to fluctuate. I don't think it'll be as static as somebody like LeBron or Steph Curry. There'll be games where he'll probably play north of 20 minutes, and there might be games where he plays closer to 10 minutes. So I think he's going to have one of the more, I guess, inconsistent roles on the team. But there will be some lineups where I think they'll play, you know, 4 or 5 guards or guys who are all ball handlers, and I think he'll thrive in those lineups for sure.
I don't think Steve Kerr needs to worry about the ego of Tyrese Halliburton too much. I think that can almost be a good or a bad thing in Halliburton trying to earn some minutes. Again, Gil McGregor, you can follow him on Twitter at @GilMcGregor_. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. NBA news now. We're, I think, through the vast majority of what we're going to see, significant offseason moves. Granted, the NBA always seems to have a curveball here at some point. But with where we're at right now, and if I asked you, Gil, to kind of tier out the Eastern Conference, obviously I would assume Boston is on tier 1. How would you slot teams maybe on a tier 2 or a tier 3?
Yeah, Boston is still, everybody's shooting for them. You can see the moves that they've made. You know, everybody is making moves is trying to catch up. But I like what Philadelphia has done. I still kind of believe it when I see it, Mo, with them. Obviously, Paul George, a guy you guys are very familiar with, going back to the Eastern Conference and forming a big three with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and also the way that they've kind of filled that team in around those 3 guys. But I really like what the Knicks have done. I think the Knicks may not be done moving. You know, again, having some wing defenders, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, to pair with Jalen Brunson and Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle coming back from injury. I think losing Hartenstein is going to be a big loss for them, but they are anticipating Mitchell Robinson to come back. So I think when you think about similar to last year, how the Timberwolves built a team specifically to take down the Nuggets, I think that's what the Knicks are trying to do with the Celtics in mind, having a bunch of wing defenders and guys who can really make the game ugly. So I think they're in that second tier right there, those 2 teams. It'll be interesting to see how things kind of fall into place. Miami kind of stayed stagnant a little bit. They weren't really able to do much. I also think the Pacers are going to be better than they were last year, getting Matt Duren back, having, you know, the confidence that comes from the run that they made to the conference finals this past year. So I put them right there, maybe I think interchangeable with the Sixers, because, again, I have to believe it when I see it. So I think the Pacers and Sixers are right there, but I think it's the Celtics, Knicks, and then Pacers and Sixers are kind of right after that.
Gil McGregor with us from the Sporting News here on the Wake Up Call on this Tuesday, joins us on the Payless Liquors hotline. How do you think the Pacers will react? There's no way to know. Last year they were the fun young team that got to kind of sneak up on teams, specifically the Milwaukee Bucks, right? There's not going to be any of that. I thought, some of the gloating they did, I thought some teams, probably are going to have them marked on the calendar a little bit more. How do you think the Pacers will handle that, the difference from last year to this year?
Very different going from being the hunter to the hunted. And I think they handled it fairly well, or as best as they could throughout that playoff run, especially because it felt like in that Knicks series, there were some guys who took some exception in the moment and really challenged them. And kudos to them. In that Game 7, they showed improved and did what needed to be done to advance past that series. I do think there will be a little bit of a growing pain, so to speak, in real time. I think having Pascal Siakam back in the fold will certainly help because he's a guy who's played for a defending champion. So there's nobody that understands what it's like to be the hunted like somebody who's played for a defending champion, be it 5 years ago now. But I think that they'll handle it well. I think there will be maybe some adjustment periods in the first quarter of the season, but I do think that this is a team that is certainly here to stay. They're building the right way. I think re-signing Siakam was huge. Re-signing Obi Toppin was huge as well. And now kind of, again, bringing back guys and then everybody being a year older and a year better, I think will benefit them.
Again, Gil McGregor's with us here, Sporting News, where you can find his work. Gil, last one from me. We saw the Summer League debut of Zach Edey last night. Just overall, that fit in Memphis with Ja Morant clearly going 9 overall was not, I think, what a lot of people thought of when they were mocking Zach Edey into those drafts. What do you think of that fit with certainly a team that had a disappointing season, a lot of injuries playing into it?
I'm going to be honest. I wasn't a big fan of it initially because there was some reporting that the Grizzlies were interested in bringing him in. And I thought just back to a few years ago when they had a tough time finding a role for Steven Adams. And not to say that these two guys are the same players. They're actually very different players. But I just thought they were going to go away from having a more traditional big man just based on what they've learned in the past. That said, I think he and Jaren Jackson Jr. Really will complement each other really well. I think that allows Jaren Jackson Jr. to not necessarily have to do the dirty work and really be his best, as a roamer defensively. I think as we saw last night, Zach Edey, the years he spent in college have done him well. He's pro-ready. He'll be able to have an immediate impact on the glass and just benefiting from the playmaking, of Ja Morant and Desmond Bane as well. They have a really good thing in place in Memphis, and like you mentioned, all the injuries and things, kind of maybe was a blessing in disguise, allowed them to get a piece like Zach Edey to kind of maybe potentially be the missing piece for that franchise. And I certainly think that even if he's only playing 20 or 25 minutes a game, they'll be very effective minutes that he has for that team.
You got to, now it's Summer League, so Summer League, I think they threw the ball into him one time to post up. Like, during the regular season, they're going to have to go old school a couple times. To get the most out of Edey, you're going to have to throw the ball into him. It can't all be, hey, go get us a bucket off the offensive rebound. You got to make him at least a little bit a part of your offense.
Absolutely. You have to. You don't get a guy like that and don't make use of all the features that he comes with, so to speak. And I certainly think that signifies a little bit of a shift because we don't necessarily see that all the time. Though I will say we did see it in the NBA Finals, albeit in a less traditional manner. But that post-presence of Kristaps Porzingis proved to be the difference, in some of those games. So, it's a copycat league. I don't necessarily think that, it's a one-for-one when you compare what they do on the block. But I do think that it does help an offense to have that dimension, to have the shooting, that you can space out with Desmond Bane, and I think they plan on bringing Luke Kennard back. So having the shooting, having a big man that can shoot in Jaren Jackson Jr., you can dump the ball in, play 4 out, 1 in with those guys, and also give Ja Morant a lot of space to operate, and they'll have some drop-offs to Zach Edey and probably some lobs too. So it'll be a fun offense to follow. It'll be a fun challenge for head coach Taylor Jenkins.
Gil McGregor with us from the Sporting News on the Payless Liquors hotline. Quickly before we get you out of here, are the Lakers a top 15 team right now in the NBA? They didn't do too much. They do bring back LeBron. And then I guess on top of that, what's your read of the entire Bronny James situation from a national viewpoint?
It's interesting. I'll start with them being a top 15 team. I personally was slightly encouraged by what I saw from them last year. They had a really strong finish to the season and honestly gave the Nuggets a tough series. They just didn't really have what it took to get over the hump. Now, how is J.J. Redick going to be as a first-year head coach? They didn't really improve the roster. They're banking on, guys like Gabe Vincent, being healthy this year. Max Christie coming into a big role after not playing much under head coach Darvin Ham. So I certainly think they're pretty much top 15, right in that middle of the road, I would say. I think that they will have a pretty similar season to what they did last year and finish maybe around that top 6 in the Western Conference. As far as Bronny James, I think it's interesting because I think there is a lot of talk about, whether or not it had to do with his dad. But you look around the NBA, and I'm not going to call anybody specifically out, but if you look at the Summer League rosters, you'll see sons of commentators and sons of head coaches and things of that nature all over the roster. So, any other year, nobody would be worried about the 55th pick. I was looking at Summer League rosters. I saw that Isaiah Wong, who was the 55th pick last year, is no longer with the Pacers, and nobody's freaking out about that. So, 55th pick on somebody who was just 1 year removed from being a McDonald's All-American and being, at the USA Hoop Summit. We wouldn't talk about it anybody else if his name, was Calvin James or anything like that, or Calvin Robinson, but his name is Bronny James, and I think that's what has caused people to have a fuss about it. I certainly think that he has a chance to prove to be worthwhile. He seems to be willing to improve and willing to learn, and he has good genes. So I think that certainly helps as well.
Gil, thanks for the time, man. Always enjoy our conversations. Appreciate you making time for us on this Tuesday morning. Enjoy a little Summer League action. Enjoy some Olympics here on the horizon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to doing it again.
Gil McGregor right there, Sporting News, Payless Liquors Hotline.
All right, you ready to do a pop quiz?
Yeah, and I'm looking at it, and I think it is crazy doable.
Oh, wow, Scotty being nice on a Tuesday?
I think if you have somewhat been paying attention to this show over the last 2 days, this screams high success rate. I have not felt this confident in a pop quiz in quite some time.
You're giving it, kiss of death again.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide
if you've been
I believe
listening
you
to
or
the
not.
show, that's always a scary
Look at these questions and answers and tell me where I'm wrong.
I know.
I believe, unlike you guys, I believe in our audience.
Yeah, I just feel like the last 2 or 3 times we went down this road, we've had some 1 and 2 for 5.
Doesn't that mean we're due?
So maybe it does mean we're due. How did we do on Friday? I can't even remember, Mark.
Well, we were off Friday, so if you did a pop quiz, it was by yourself.
Well, it was a Wednesday that felt like a Friday, so that's the best way to put it. Hey, a reminder, coming up, it's rapidly approaching. It's next week, Thursday.
9 days, baby.
9 days. Thursday, July 18th, the Fan on the Back 9 golf tournament. It's all presented by Franciscan Health. Again, it's at that beautiful Back 9 golf and entertainment location. You see the skyline of Indianapolis right downtown. It's absolutely fantastic. Check-in beginning at 11 a.m. Everything officially kicks off at noon. There'll be a silent auction as well. Tons of fun will be had out there. Jake and Jimmy going to be broadcasting from there. JMV as well. Beer, food, drink. That's what we're going to be doing.
Cannot wait.
Yeah, for more tickets, for ticket information, any information, visit 1075thefan.com. All right, let's get it going. Pop quiz 239-1070. We'll do it next here on this Tuesday.
Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
Easiest pop quiz I've seen in 3 months. This thing's a joke.
Oh, wow.
This thing is a joke.
The first 3 are pretty easy. Yeah, number 4 is easy. You know what? I'm with
Zach
you.
Eady putback. Although he did miss that putback.
I was about to say he missed a huge putback last night, did he not?
But he did get the tip in to force overtime.
Good enough.
After that. All right, Andy Sweeney, number 1 through 8 here.
All right, let's do fast fingers. Caller number 1, Mark. Who do we have?
Matthew.
Fast fingers is who?
Matthew.
Matthew, good morning.
Good morning.
Matthew, did you call because you heard about the ease of the pop quiz?
Yeah. Also, I call all the time. Ask Mark.
Well, I love that. Matthew, are
Confirmed.
you gonna, a little birdie told me, hint, birdie, might make an appearance at the old Back Nine golf outing coming up here a week from Thursday.
Yes, sir.
You can find those tickets available, 107.5 The Fan. Very much looking forward to that. We've mentioned it before, but for Andy and I and Mark, we're very happy to be out and about, and our show will be over by the time the Back Nine outing commences, which means the drinks can be flowing there.
Beer, yeah.
And great interaction with all of our listeners. So really looking forward to that coming up a week from Thursday. Matthew, do not let me down. I think it's incredibly easy. I believe in your brain. Andy Sweeney, lead us off.
All right, question number 1. The Fever beat the Liberty Saturday afternoon here at the Field House. Now, Caitlin Clark became the first rookie in WNBA history to record a triple-double. Who was the last Fever player to have a triple-double in a game? The last Fever player. Tamika Catchings, Katie Douglas, Stephanie White, or Caitlin Clark was the first?
I'm just going to say Caitlin Clark was the first. I've never seen the Fever play, so the history on there is going to be non-existent.
Well, Wednesday, noon. That'll be WTHR for those out there. I believe an ESPN game or two coming up here before the Olympic break. But that's a good start here, Matthew. Pato O'Ward picked up his second win of the IndyCar season at Mid-Ohio on Sunday. Name the only other driver with multiple IndyCar wins this season. No cheating involved, right, Scotty? No cheating involved? Okay. Multiple wins. Joseph Newgarden, Alex Palou, Scott Dixon, or Scott McLaughlin?
Alex Palou.
Question number 3. All right, so follow me here, Matthew. The Pacers open Summer League play Friday night in Vegas against the Nets. There's a 4-team California Classic that winds up tomorrow night in San Francisco. There is one other 4-team NBA Summer League that began play last night. Where is this third NBA Summer League located? Salt Lake City, Memphis, Charlotte, Orlando. That's where Zach Eady played last night.
Memphis?
Kind of a home game for the team Zach Eady was playing last night. I thought the home crowd brought some great energy as Zach Eady's Grizzlies were playing a pseudo road game in that one. What'd you say, Matthew? You were breaking up a little bit earlier.
Charlotte.
Number 4 here, the rosters for next Tuesday's Major League All-Star game were announced on Sunday. Matthew, can you name the only Cincinnati Red on the NL roster? Is it Ellie De La Cruz, Hunter Green, Spencer Steer, or Jonathan India?
De La Cruz.
Question number 5. I'm going to butcher every one of these names. So, Mark Dykton, turn that microphone on. Name the only Chicago Cub on the NL roster. Oh, is this the pity? Was it pity? I mean, it was pity. Everyone has to have someone, so that's what it was. Cody Bellinger, Michael Busch, Shota Imanaga.
Shota Imanaga.
Okay, that's pretty good. Seiya Suzuki.
There you go.
I'll just pick the third guy. The Cubs are actually the reason I stopped watching baseball because of the Steve Bartman game.
I mean, that's not a bad reason.
That's my last MLB game.
That comment just made my day, Matthew. C was the answer chosen there?
Shota Imanaga, yeah.
Now, okay, well, what did I say? I feel very optimistic about a successful pop quiz. What do you call that?
That's pretty good. That's a very good one.
Gosh, number 3 is going to sting.
I know.
I'm
Salt
wake
Lake
up at
City.
2 a.m. tonight thinking about that one.
Could have been 5 for 5, Michael. It's all right. Salt Lake City was the answer to number 3. Otherwise, that's the only one got wrong.
Yeah,
right.
Caitlin Clark for the first. Yeah, Pillow Road Course.
That is correct.
I felt like I said Salt Lake City at one point today, but
You did.
nonetheless. Ellie De La Cruz.
Let's go!
And I like Matthew's answer better of the Cubs are the reason I stopped cheering for a baseball team.
I mean, I haven't watched them in a while either, so I don't blame you.
Correct.
4 for 5 right there from Matthew. And
Yeah, but here's the thing about that. I thought the Cubs were known as, even if they stink, you still kind of are, you're a Cubs fan, so you don't mind going out there and drinking some beer and drinking the old style and having a good time. I did see as well, and Scotty, you may have seen this, Hunter Green, I'm not sure what his actual record is, but the metric said that Hunter Green was actually the best all-star candidate for the Reds this year. Now, he didn't get it. It's probably it's the right thing for them to do to put Ellie De La Cruz in because people want to see him play against the big boys. And, no offense, we don't really care about Hunter Green. But Hunter Green, his metrics, his analytics say he should have been probably in the All-Star game in a couple weeks. How about that?
Yeah, that does not surprise me. And, if I'm not mistaken, pitching was actually something NL had a little bit of. Obviously, Paul Skeen's a part of that. But, yes, Ellie De La Cruz, Globe Life Field or Stadium, whatever the hell they call it, coming up here a week from today for the All-Star
Yeah, if I'm
game.
not mistaken, that was seen as like the ugliest stadium that's been out there. It just looked like a big warehouse.
Are you
basically out in Arlington.
visit every baseball stadium guy?
No, I'm not. No, I mean I'd like to, but no, I'm not. I'm trying to think. I've only been to like 4 or 5 of them.
I
Probably.
think I've only been to 2. I think
Okay,
Great
so you've
American
been to
Ballpark,
Cincinnati, and who else?
You've attended games or just seen the stadium? Like you've driven past it?
Busch. No, I've seen a bunch, but attended games. Yeah, Busch and Great American. I haven't been to Wrigley.
Yeah, you need to get to Wrigley.
Okay, so I have been.
And we drove past that White Sox stadium the other
Guaranteed
day.
rate, yeah.
That thing looks about as depressing as the weather right now.
It is
It's got
depressing.
a giant arrow pointing down outside of it, so yeah.
Yeah, I've been Yankees. I have been Cleveland. I've been actually Kansas City. I went when they had the All-Star game like a decade ago. I've been to those 3. I've been obviously Great American, Wrigley. What's that? 5. I've been to St. Louis. That's 6. And I've been to Atlanta 7. That's it. So I've been to 7.
Maybe
That's
I've been
actually
to more
not bad.
Spring training venues than I have been.
Cubs,
Major League
Brewers,
Baseball.
White Sox, Cardinals, Rays, Rangers. I think I've been to 6.
So that's not bad. I've not been to Pittsburgh. I would like to go to a
we almost thought about
beautiful
going over
stadium.
the 4th
Some good
July
things
weekend.
about that PNC Park. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, no,
on that
it
end.
looks beautiful.
All right, this time tomorrow, we'll be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse wrapping up. It'll be a fever-loaded show tomorrow, and we are hoping to have, I would say, marquee person involved in the Fever organization join us.
People
there.
are never going to be able to guess who we're hoping to have the way you're saying that. Do we have an early spread for that game? Usually you bring that up at some point.
Fever,
I'm trying to look it up right now.
Okay, how about this? Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead. Knock
If you can
yourself
find it,
out.
I'll say Fever 4.5.
No, this is the Mystics, right?
Yes, favored. That would be favored over the Mystics.
The Fever are favored by 5.5.
Look at that.
It's pretty good. 5.5.
Now, remember, the Mystics started 0-12 on the year.
Did they? Yeah.
Actually have been much better
They're
since.
5-17 now.
Yeah, but this is one that at home against the Mystics, they've beat them already a couple times this season, falls in the need-to-have category.
Jake and Jimmy at noon, JMV at 3. Everyone have a good afternoon. We're back at it tomorrow, 7 a.m. right here on The Fan.